Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Second Chance Points podcast, a podcast where we talk about everything basketball from the recruitment of high schoolers to college all the way through the NBA. I'm your host, Ryan. I'm here with my buddy, my co host, Jarrett Smith. What's up, Jarrett?
How's it going, buddy? It's great to be here, I tell you.
I know, dude, this is a long time coming.
Folks, it is. We've been planning this one for what, good year and a half?
Almost two.
Almost two. Wow.
Like, almost as long as we've known each other, which is wild.
That is
So,
very strange.
so yeah, this show is a part of the Greater Than Media production or Greater Than Network Media. A network where we honestly just explore our passions, whatever that is, from the mysterious to sports to entertainment. And as you guys are here for, it's basketball. So right now, we're going over the NCAA tournament, the first round in particular. We will be putting up our picks if we decide to do so later. But right now, this isn't a prediction special. This is more of a here are the matchups. Here's what we think could potentially happen in the first round, and week by week we'll go over each round and what's happened. And yeah, Garrett, thoughts before we get started?
No, I'm ready to get into it, man. Excited.
All right. Hey, me too. So, moving along, we'll start with the West. Game one, I think it's pretty obvious. We won't really spend much time here. Gonzaga and Georgia State.
Yeah, it's Gonzaga all the way.
Yeah, Gonzaga. Georgia State, the pride of the Sun Belt. I mean, like, obviously they're a good school. They have talent, but it's Gonzaga.
But they're a tournament team, but they're a 16 seed going up against arguably one of the most or the best offensive team college basketball scene in a long time. They just
Yeah, they rank
it's
first
it's
nationally in points per game. I think with like 88.
it, it's not going to be there. It should not be much of a competition. We'll leave it there.
Yeah. Moving along, an actual game, Jarrett. An actual game. Boise State and Memphis.
It's This is going to be really close. I truthfully believe so.
Oh yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. We get Leon Rice. Leon Rice's Broncos takes on Penny Hardaway's Tigers. I think an interesting thing to point out here about specifically Boise, they're a very very defensive oriented team. They're very deep. They have lots of experience. Very tall, dude. They have 7 seniors on their roster. They won the.
That's
Sorry, what?
that's a lot of seniors.
No, dude, you should see some of these other teams. This is just scratching the ice for some of these seniors. But like we were talking about, 7 seniors on the roster with Boise. They won the what conference is Boise State in? I'm blanking.
Oh
Midwest,
God,
Mountain West.
you had
I'm so
you
stupid.
had to ask. I could,
I know
yeah,
they won
Mountain
the
West.
Mountain West tournament and regular season title. Um, Looking across from them is a team that's had a very up and down season. The Tigers of Memphis. They started the year 9-8. Had one of their
hmm
the guy. Remember? Do you remember how much Imani Bates was hyped up going to college?
He still should be, to be perfectly
He
honest.
really
Like
should.
it's still Amani Bates. He just got hurt. Like
He did, but I do want to bring you this stat. I just read to you they went 9-8 when they started the season. Since Imani
mhm.
Bates got hurt in the middle of January, they've gone 9 and I think they've gone 10-1.
That's yeah.
They
I'll give you that one.
like it's addition by subtraction. I don't think necessarily that's strictly Imani Bates' fault. I just think when he's in the lineup, he's so much ball oriented
Yeah,
that he
I get it.
demands so much attention.
He does, and you know, when you're a top five prospect coming in, projected top five pick, you're gonna get your head blown out of proportion. It's just gonna happen. He's gonna take shots that he took in high school that are just a little bit more contested than they normally are. It's gonna take some adjusting. It does to every freshman prospect. We see it every year, and I don't think he was any different. Now he should still be a very high pick in the NBA draft if,
Almost
he
definitely.
chooses to go because he is that talented. It's rare to find someone of his size and length at a forward position
Exactly. His
with
athleticism is crazy.
his ability to handle the ball and shoot is just it's incredible to watch when he is healthy, and without them, I don't I don't know how good Memphis is truly without a guy like that.
Which is interesting because they like we just talked about they did go 10-1 without him. But I would be interesting to see what happens if he comes back because I with if he comes back even in the NCAA tournament, right? The
Yeah.
question would be was his departure and coinciding with the success that Penny Hardaway has seen. Is that a coaching issue, or is that because Bates had that bad of an impact?
I personally, I don't. I'm not a big Penny Hardaway guy. He's a tremendous recruiter. His X's and O's could use a little work. I think we can all admit that.
Oh, that would be why. Like, oh, I completely agree. But that's why they brought the legend himself, Larry Brown, as his assistant.
That is a very good point. But I mean, going back to if Amani Bates returns, listen, we have seen it over some years where people get these incredible one players back on these 8, 7, 6 seeds, and they just go on incredible runs. And I would see Memphis as being one of those teams that's just a tough team to get out at that point if he returns.
Right. And so now we're going to look at the rest of that Memphis squad before we move on to the next matchup. Since this injury, they've been led by center Jalen Duren, who is insane. I don't know if you watched him
Oh,
again in that Houston matchup, but that man was absolutely dominating by himself.
I've watched a good amount of Memphis games this year. I have, and Jalen Duran is just he's always an eye catcher. Like you understand why he's a projected top 10 pick.
Oh yeah, he's so large in terms of
Mhm.
length. He's huge, but also he looks like he fits into his body, which is something that we see a lot of issues with when we get to these 7 footers. They seem
Yeah,
like they've outgrown themselves. He doesn't look like that at
yeah.
all.
No, his coordination is incredible for a guy of that size. Like you're it's a rare talent, and that is why he's projected so high on these draft boards. You're not going to find a guy like that
Yep. And
in
looking
really
around that,
college basketball.
oh yeah, and the rest of that Memphis team, it is very deep. They are a very they're a, I shouldn't say very. They're a decent defensive team. They get stops when they need to. They're kind of scrappy, depending on how much the refs obviously allow in any specific game. But
Hmm.
the issue with them is that they're heavily turnover prone. Out of 350 teams, Jarrett, they are 346th in turnovers.
They're young.
They
That
average over
that's
16 a game.
I would love to see how that number has changed from the beginning of the year with Amani and like where it's at now, like what since he's gone out and just the difference to see, truly how much of a difference he's made in all areas of the game.
Right. I want to say that I would say it's probably stayed the same, but that it's gone to a different cause of the turnover. I feel like maybe with
Yeah,
Amani, he was trying to do too much and they turned it over, but without Amani, they don't really have a ball handler.
yeah,
So they're turning it over by the team having that lack of facilitator.
that is always a fair point. I'll give that one to you. You
Yeah.
ready to move on to Connecticut and New Mexico?
Yeah, well, first let's pick a winner between
Oh, you want
Boise
to
and
pick a winner?
Memphis cuz I it's a tough one.
Let me tell you, brother. I'm gonna go Boise.
You know, I'm gonna do the same just because Boise, like they're tall, they're deep, they're experienced. I feel like they're gonna give the lack of ball handling ability by Memphis a lot of trouble. And I just think that experience is what's gonna do in Memphis. So I'll agree with you. All right, now we can move on. The next matchup: UConn and New Mexico State.
Oof. How
So
you feeling about UConn?
I love UConn. Like Dan
I do
Hurley's
too.
squad, they are scrappy. They are second in the nation in blocks per game at 6.5. They are multiple players average 2+ blocks a game. They do overextend. That is the problem with their defense is that they are so aggressive and their players play so hard for Dan Hurley that they overextend themselves and they give up some easy baskets sometimes,
Hmm.
which is why they allow 65 points a game, which is 57th in the nation, which isn't bad. Like that's a well above average defense.
Hmm.
But it could be better if they were a little bit more disciplined. But honestly, I don't think Dan Hurley wants them to play any different than what they are. They're so long, they're so athletic, and they're so deep that aggressive defense, I think it can throw a lot of teams off guard.
Oh, it absolutely can, and they shoot the ball so good for where they're at.
Right.
It's just it's they're a great team to watch when it comes
So
to
much fun. They attack the offensive glass like it's like their life depends on it. They're so aggressive.
they compete, and that's all you can ask for most of the time.
Right. They're led by R.J. Cole. I'm trying to read these names. I can't read my own handwriting. Adama Sanogo and Tyrese Martin, who all average above 13 points a game. So it's like they have scoring when they need it. I know that they've
Mhm.
been kind of wishy washy on the scoring. Like they're not bad. They do average 75 points a game, which is really good. But like sometimes they can get into droughts just like any other team. So I don't think that their offense is what really suffers. I really think that overextending on the defense is what will catch them.
Yeah, that's what'll catch them in the tournament, and that's what we're here for is the tournament, and it's just
Right.
that they have to shoot good, and they have to not overextend themselves as much as they have been, and that team can go really far.
Right. So now looking across from them, we're looking at New Mexico State, led by Chris Jans, who honestly is on the market for a lot of these teams that are looking for coaches. So
As he should
it'll
be,
be really
as he should
interesting to
be.
see where he goes. But looking at the current team he has, this team is led by Teddy Allen, and guard Sir Jabari Rice. Well, Allen averages over 19 a game with 6 rebounds and 2 assists and over a steal, with Jabari averaging over 12 and 5. They have 8 upperclassmen on the roster. They're very tough defensively. Ranked similarly in defensive efficiency, they're ranked 52nd nationally with points allowed. So UConn allows 65.2, New Mexico allows 65 flat.
Oof.
But yeah, they are like in terms of defense. I think obviously their defensive style is way different, but what they allow and what they give up is almost identical. The only issue, the only difference, and it's a lot like this Memphis Boise matchup. New Mexico is very turnover prone.
Mhm.
They turn the ball over 14 times a game on average. So with that in mind, right? I'm gonna go ahead and transition here into the pick, or kind of like lean into that. I think it's
Mhm.
obvious, like if not just from the seeding that they got, I think UConn's defensive pressure against a turnover prone team, regardless of how good they are, will cause fits for New Mexico State.
It absolutely should, but you always gotta look at these games like this when teams rely on shooting like UConn does, and they don't have that go-to guy like a Teddy Allen that they can just call on and be like, "I need a bucket. We need 2 points to stop this right now."
Right.
Like, I'm picking UConn. I think it should be a very consensus pick that UConn will win this game, but the thing is, if Connecticut does not shoot as great as they have been or as good as they have been, you can look at this one and be like, "I understand why they lost." It would be very obvious, and you could be okay with it if they lost.
Oh, completely agree. Like we were talking about, like these 5-12 matchups always end up with one of them losing. Like there's always a
Yeah.
5-12 that gets upset. I don't think it's UConn, as for previously stated. I think New Mexico State being turnover prone and UConn being super aggressive, like
Mhm.
like jumping on loose balls and like deflections and playing the passing lanes as much as they do. I just
Yeah.
don't think there will be a like I personally I think it's like 0 to none chance that New Mexico State upsets UConn.
Listen, we've seen crazier things. This is March, brother.
We have, but I feel really confident about that.
I can see it. I'll get you with that one.
Okay, and now we'll move on because we picked UConn. Another UConn-esque team in Arkansas taking on the Vermont Catamounts. Garrett, what you think?
I mean, it's Arkansas, right? Like it should be a very consensus Arkansas. They've the amount of teams that they have beaten in this, past 2 months,
Oh yeah.
insane. The caliber of teams that they have beaten is insane. Auburn, Kentucky, like humongous SEC schools, top 3 seeds. Like it's just this shouldn't even be a comparison.
Oh yeah.
I genuinely I feel bad for Vermont.
I love Eric Musselman. I've loved him
Fuck.
since his Nevada days. He is genuinely one of my favorite coaches to watch. He is a guy. He's a player's first coach. You see him celebrating as hard as his players when he wins. He's just a
Another guy whose players play for him really
Exactly.
hard.
Like he's a guy that you want to play for. They're led by a guard JD Note, who averages over 18, and Jalen Williams, the forward. They got a
Mhm.
really good tandem there with those
They
two that
do.
leading the way. It's gonna be very hard. They like you were talking about. They play hard. They fly around defensively. They score highly in transition. Defensively, going back to that side of the ball, they play the passing lane, which rank 66 nationally with 7.7 steals per game. So they get a
Mhm.
lot of steals. They're flying around a lot like what we were just describing with UConn. They have 4 players in double digits. Include we've already said two, Note and Williams, but they've got Stanley, Umud. I can't pronounce his name. Sorry.
Understandable.
And then Audius Tony. I'll probably also mispronounce his name. But they've got four guys that average double digits in a system that is completely predicated on how they do defensively.
Mhm.
Yeah, and like leading up, what was funny about this was going into the halfway mark of the season. This is not the Arkansas team that we're looking at right now. Like they were
Absolutely not.
struggling
They
defensively.
have flipped a switch on everything, offensively, defensively, coaching. Like, it was just it's night and day
Right.
from Arkansas before January to Arkansas after.
So like
Completely different team.
exactly. So when I'm about to read you these numbers, I feel like they're extremely deceptive. Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna start with the opponent's points per game. So if you play Arkansas, you're like the opponents score this amount. Okay.
Mm, yeah.
Arkansas ranks as the 161st team in the nation out of 350 by allowing 68.5 points a game. I don't think that is extremely accurate to what they have been doing since exactly what you've just described, right?
Yeah, you also gotta give it to them though, they're playing the best teams in the
Yeah, they're in a really
world
tough
right now.
conference in the
They are.
SEC. They change like they didn't start the best, so I feel like that number is very swayed. But also, this next number I'm about to read, their points per game, they average just a hair under 77, which is a lot. But
That is a
also,
lot of points.
the reasons that Arkansas has been in trouble is because they have a streaky offense. They do have a lot of guys that can score, but when they're not hot, when their stars aren't scoring, they struggle.
It's hard when your offense revolves around 2 guys and everybody else kinda counters off of that, and if
Specifically,
those 2
Note.
guys are yeah, specifically Note, and then Williams feeds off him more, but he can still get his own shot,
Oh yeah,
but if Note's struggling, it's kinda if they're playing a good big, a like a really good big, they will struggle,
oh yeah.
but it depends on who they're a very matchup-based team.
Oh, I agree. Which, speaking of matchups, do you know how much fun that second round? If so, we haven't even talked about Vermont yet, right? So I'm not trying to look too far ahead as we look into them. But if we do end up getting an Arkansas Yukon 4 and 5 second round, do you know how much fun that game's going to be?
It's gonna be incredible.
Oh yeah. So now, as we were just describing, looking at Vermont, they finished the season 28-5, first in the American East, led by Ben Davis, who averaged 17, just a hair under 6 rebounds, a little over an assist a game. And Ben Shungu. I'm really bad with names, so I apologize for any.
I'm glad you tried it because I wasn't.
Yeah. So some key notes here. They're not overtly tall, right? Like they're not like short by any means, but they're not the biggest team in the nation, which does kind of hurt them on the interior. And
Mhm.
here's the thing: in the American East, that wasn't really that big of a deal, right? But going up against this Arkansas team that has size, it's going to be some problem.
It is. But this Vermont team is not predicated on their size. They're going out there and they're going to try and outshoot you.
Oh, exactly. They have so in to add on to that, they are very efficient offensively. Everyone knows their role and they star in it. 12 of their 17 players on their roster are upperclassmen with 10 seniors.
That's a team that can give you fits because they've been there and they've done it.
Oh yeah. See and like we were just talking about like in the American East, due to that, they do rank 10th nationally in defense, right?
Mhm.
Like in terms of opponents points per game. They give up 60 points per game. And that's a good number. They're a team that they make you shoot the ball, right? Like
Mhm.
they crash the driving lanes and they make you pass it around the arc and whittle down the shot clock and shoot. But like what we were saying, like when they go up against the size of Arkansas, and if Arkansas can find a way to get it down low and the speed, I just think there's going to be so many issues with that.
There really should be. I mean, if Arkansas finds a way to lose this game, I don't think it's because Vermont won. I think it's because Arkansas loses.
Exactly. This game will just be a battle of pace. Whose
Yeah.
pace will win the game? Like if I will say if Vermont does slow down Arkansas and makes them just shoot jumpers, I like there's a genuine chance they can upset them.
There absolutely is. I mean, you gotta look. It's a 4-13 seed. Arkansas is not a perfect team.
Not at all.
They're definitely they have struggled at points. They're very inconsistent, and you go up against this Vermont team, and if Vermont's having one of those days, there aren't many teams who are going to outscore them.
Oh, I completely agree. So, but we're gonna stick with our Arkansas pick.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I
cool.
don't think I don't think it should change. I don't think anybody should genuinely pick Vermont. We'll see.
No, no, I mean, like, there's like in some circles there's reason to, but I don't think in.
Yeah,
All right,
agree.
the next matchup. It's in one of the. It's our first obstacle in the road. We have to start, and we're gonna do this quick. Rutgers and Notre Dame.
You want me to pick?
I already know who I'm going with.
I'd go Notre Dame.
Yeah, I'm going Rutgers.
Ooh,
Yeah, I think Geo Baker and Ron Harper Jr. are two of the best guards in the Big Ten. I do understand why you go Notre Dame simply because Rutgers away from home is atrocious. But I think in this atmosphere, with this is the NCAA tournament, right?
hmm
You would like to think that these stars are going to show up, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
you would.
Rutgers has bad losses, but those bad losses have been when Geo Baker was hurt and he didn't play. I genuinely believe that Rutgers is a better team. You look at Notre Dame; they've been healthy all year, and I need to look up their quad one wins because they don't have very many. Their biggest is obviously Kentucky.
Yeah, it's another team that's very streaky. If they get hot at the right time, it's a hard team to beat. It's just whether they're on that day or if they're not.
Oh, exactly. Here, I'm looking it up real quick. So let's keep discussing this. I want to see what Notre Dame is in the quad one and two.
If I had to guess, I would say it's not very good because I know even after the Kentucky game, they went out and lost like what a week later to someone who was
Oh yeah.
I
So
don't remember who it was.
in quads one and two combined, they have a record of 4-9.
Yeah,
Like they're so bad. Like 9 of their 10 losses came in the first two quads, which are quads you can't lose in if you're going to be an NCAA tournament team. Their only other win is against the other 10th rated or the 10th seeded Miami.
that's 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 a rough
That's
one.
their only quad one win. They have two quad two wins, and that's home against North Carolina and at Clemson. I don't know why Clemson's a quad one game.
Since when is Clemson?
I mean,
That's not
they were all right this year. Like I'm not gonna
they
dis.
they were.
I don't think
I'm
they're.
not trying to kill them, but
I
like
think they're a quad two, but like they got
yeah,
like hey, that's what they got. So they're 4-9 in the first two quadrants, which I don't understand. This is gonna be the only time I say this because I was very annoyed. How do you have that Notre Dame team in and Texas A&M out?
I don't like it. I really don't. Still, I won't for a long time. I I'll never get over some of the seedings for this because you you know as well as I do that some of these teams just genuinely don't deserve to be here.
Or
Like
there's
they're not good enough to win a tournament.
oh yeah, and there's another team. Well, we'll talk about them back to back when we get to the South, but I won't talk about it right now because we've got a ways to go. But when we get to the South, there are two teams back to back that one I think should be higher and one that shouldn't be in there at all. But I digress. We have a long time
I'm
before we get there.
okay with it.
So let's do a tiebreaker of some sort. Rutgers or Notre Dame. I'm sticking with Rutgers.
You might have. I'll go Rutgers.
Okay.
I you might have swayed me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, and that's great because I also have Rutgers beating Alabama.
You have Rutgers beating
I
Alabama.
do. I think Alabama. So
Ooh,
let's go ahead and go over Alabama before we go back and kind of dissect Rutgers a little bit more in what was supposed to have been a quick segment, but it didn't.
yeah,
Um,
never is.
no. Alabama has had one of those roller coaster seasons where they beat teams like Gonzaga, and I'm pretty sure they beat Arizona, but then they turn around and lose to like Iona, right?
Yeah.
No, they didn't beat Arizona. They beat. Oh, I have it written down. I don't know why I'm not reading. They've beaten Gonzaga, Houston, Tennessee, and Baylor, and then they've lost to Iona, Missouri, Mississippi State, and Georgia. Like
Freaky.
I know, like I get Iona's like a decent like mid-level team, but that's still really bad.
Hey, got a great coach.
Oh, Nate Oates is phenomenal.
I think that's always what you look. I like coaching in the tournament is always going to be a humongous advantage.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. Okay, I'm gonna give you my pitch for why I think Rutgers will beat Alabama. Okay,
Okay.
Bama's coming off of losing 3 of their last 4 games. Okay,
Okay.
They're ranked 315th out of 350 teams in turnovers per game with just a hair under 15 a game. They're streaky all over the place, right?
Yeah.
While their points per game, their scoring is really good. They average 80 points a game, which is 10th nationally. They give up 76.4 points a game, which is 318th out of 350. But to give them some credit, when they get hot, they are fast and they are explosive, which is deadly.
Hmm.
But as I think you're going to see a theme here with me in these teams in the tournament. Defensive teams always will get my first pick,
Yeah, I get that.
right? And looking over at Rutgers, they're a top 75 team in the nation. They rank 74th in terms of opponents' points per game, with just a hair under 66 scored against them.
Hmm.
So I look at this. I look at where Alabama is. They've lost 3 of 4. I look at how streaky they are, and they're playing an above average and actually pretty decent defensive team in Rutgers. And Rutgers has as much scoring capability as Alabama, in my opinion. So I think Rutgers, once again, this is all predicated if Steve Picquiel, their coach, can get them out of their home mindset and make them be able to win on a neutral court.
Uh, I'll put it to you this way. I'm gonna go with Alabama, and I will tell you why. I think when it comes to tournament time, you always see. Well, this has kind of been trending at not as much recently, but it's been for a long time. Great guard play wins tournaments,
Oh no, you're right.
and with Shackelford and Quinterly, that's two of the best guards that you're gonna find in this tournament.
Oh, if they're
I,
hot,
li-
yeah.
I They absolutely, and if they're hot, and I can honestly see them getting hot at least for a couple games, especially with Oates, just because of how great of a coach he is.
All right, yeah. No, I mean, like once again, I'm not disagreeing with you about Nate Oates. I love Nate Oates. His Buffalo teams, I can remember so vividly. They were so much fun to watch. It's the exact
Hmm.
same thing at Alabama. Like you could have told me, like you couldn't have told me who the head coach was, and just by watching those two teams play, I would have been able to tell you that it's Nate Oates.
Uh, I'll give you credit because I probably couldn't have done that, but I respect it.
I love Nate Oates. So I'm not trying to say like he can't out. Obviously, he can't coach. I'm just trying to say that I don't think this is his year.
I'm not saying that they're going to win it all
No, no. I
by any
mean,
means
like
or go to the Elite Eight,
at all.
but I think they can beat a Rutgers.
No. I mean, they're gonna lose in the next round when we go over who they play next.
Yeah, they are.
And speaking of that, we'll go ahead and move into that. So Texas Tech and Montana State. I think this is another one of those that we can.
We should move through this one quickly.
Yeah, not because like Montana State shouldn't get our respect because they should, but also it's Montana State, and this is a very veteran Texas Tech team.
A
One of the
lot of guys contributing.
one of the best defensive teams in the nation. I'm looking trying to find because I read it earlier, but I didn't write it down. They rank very high defensively. I can never. But yeah, they've got a lot of veteran leadership. They have a great head coach, and I also lost his name. Joey McGuire. That's who I was thinking of.
Yes.
Joey McGuire is a great head coach. Um, I felt like there was no better person, like in hindsight, obviously. Like I had no idea how he was going to do, but like since he's taken over for Chris Beard, all he's done is just pick up the tools, add in his own little flavor, and just
Hmm.
get this Tech team back to where they were. So as good as they are defensively, I mean Bryson Williams and Terrence Shannon Jr. are insane. They're deep, a lot of veteran leadership. So yeah,
They are. They're a very good team. They're going to be a very hard out in any conference or play or
oh yeah,
tournament, whatever it is. They're going to be a hard out just because of how hard that they fight.
exactly. Yeah, let's go ahead and move on then, because Texas Tech
We're Yeah, we're definitely picking Texas Tech.
in unison here, my friend.
Absolutely.
So this next one is a very interesting matchup in my eyes. Tom Izzo's Michigan State Spartans take on Davidson and Tom McLop's team. What do you think?
Put me on the spot here,
I did.
and I'm okay with it. because I'm gonna go with Davidson, and I'll tell you why. Michigan State's has been a team that you always kind of expect to do something in the tourney.
Oh
They
yeah.
have been, and they've let me down.
Their coach's name is
Hey,
McKillop, by the way. I totally misread that.
that's fine. But I'm looking at this Davidson team, and all I see is people who can shoot the lights out. And I have a feeling that Michigan State is not going to be able to keep up with them offensively.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, it's a Davidson team that they have an 8-man rotation, like solid 8-man rotation. Which like I mean that's fine. It's not the deepest, but like
It's good enough when you get to the tournament.
yeah,
You can
you can
survive.
get away with it. But yeah, but to your credit, like what you were saying, they shoot 38, just a hair under 39% from three. As a team, they shoot over 48% from the field.
Hmm.
They're led by like they have four guys that score over double digits, two that score over 16, and Foster Lawyer and Hung Jun Lee. So I agree with you. I just don't think I can't see this Michigan State team who like yes they have a deep rotation. They only have one legit guy and that's Gabe Brown, and even him like they don't have that stud.
I'm looking at Luka Brajkovic, a
He's tough.
6'10" center,
He's tough.
averaging 14, shooting 43% from three.
Oh, he's tough.
I'm taking Davidson.
Oh, same. Like
That's a hard out.
he's that Luca is also averaging over a block a game.
He is.
So I'm right here with you actually. It's kind of funny because like I mean not that I thought that was a big upset, but like
It's not it's very, like, minimal, but, like, think it's kind of it should happen.
right, like I'm looking at this at the stats I have written down. Like the only way I can see Michigan State like they're a very basketball by committee, right? Like they don't really have
Mhm.
that star. They have a deep rotation. They've got a lot of guys that can play but no stars. And so the point that I'm trying to make here is that if you're a team like that, you have to be good defensively
Yes.
because offensively you don't have that star. I mean, their closest thing to a star is Gabe Brown, and he's not. You know, I hate to break it to any Sparty fans, he's not good enough. He's just not.
No. And, I'm gonna put this sounds weird considering they should be an underdog. I mean, well, they're the lower seed, I'll put it that way. But, like, I don't think this is a game that Davidson loses.
No, in fact, I could see this being a double-digit win for Davidson.
They should. I just, like,
I mean,
I haven't really been that confident in a 10 seed beating a 7 seed
in a long time,
like
if
this
ever.
in a long time.
Oh yeah, like and I'm looking at the opponent's points per games, and now granted, one's the Big Ten and one's the A10, so you can't really like take this with a grain of
Mhm.
salt. But Michigan State allows over 68 points per game, which is 155th nationally in terms of opponent scoring, and that's probably right at average, right? Like
Yeah,
that's like meh, like they can get stops, but they're not necessarily great at it.
they're
Davidson,
very mid.
exactly. Davidson only lets up just a hair under 66, which might not sound like a lot, but that so like we just were talking about over 68 puts Michigan State at 155. Just a hair under 66 puts Davidson at 73rd.
Mm.
So like these points matter, right? And I feel like Davidson being on paper, right, the better defensive team. They have stars. They're I would say in terms of depth from star power, yes, Michigan State's very deep, but Davidson is deeper. Like they're
I
like sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I agree, and I think this is a game that it wouldn't be David it wouldn't be Michigan State winning, it would be Davidson losing, and
Exactly.
that's so odd to say about a 10 seed over a 7 seed, but that's
And
just the truth.
and my favorite fact of the day. You ready for this?
A carrot.
The leading scorer for Davidson, Foster Lawyer, their guard, is a Michigan State transfer.
Of course he is.
He
Why
shoots
wouldn't he
he
be?
shoots 44% from 3 and over 45% from the field. I imagine this guy just going off.
Probably.
Like I just see them just going insane. Like I
You
like
thinking 30 piece?
yeah, like I'm legit thinking like Foster Lawyer goes off for 30 plus and Davidson routs Michigan State by like 15.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. Like I can't imagine a world where that's not what happens. Like just looking at the numbers and looking at how these two teams play and who Michigan State has like that's how I see it happening. I can obviously see I actually know some Michigan State fans that would probably hate me for saying that, but I'm saying it anyway.
That's fair. But before we get off the Michigan State topic, how long do you genuinely give Tom Izzo as the coach there if this continues?
Well, honestly, he's at the end of his tenure anyway. Like he's been there for so long. I feel like they're just gonna
Mhm.
ride him out, like Syracuse has done with Jim Boeheim.
Yeah.
Like Syracuse hasn't like they've always played their best basketball in March, but they haven't been a 20-win regular season team in a very long time. But
It's very
because
true.
Jim Boeheim had them where they were, and he's as old as he is, it's going to be the exact same situation. Like if I would be shocked if Michigan State forced him out.
Yeah, oddly, I really like that Syracuse team. I love Buddy Bayheim.
Honestly, if he wasn't suspended, I would have. I think that they could have had a really good shot. Obviously, they did without him. They almost didn't.
Yeah,
But before I go off on my tangent about how stupid can somebody be for blatantly gut punching an opposing player, we're gonna move on.
that's perfectly fine.
Okay, so the next one is another one of these quickies. Duke, CSU, Fullerton.
It's- we say quickie, but it's Duke.
I know. Like all I'm gonna say,
I'm just,
Duke's gonna win this game, but they do kind of worry me because defensively they're not like what they usually are.
no. Listen, let's be honest. This is a Duke team that just doesn't have it. They're not going to win a title this year. You can't go out in Coach K's last year and not win the ACC tournament and lose to North Carolina at Duke
They just
in
look
his last game.
gassed. Like they look
You
gassed, out of confidence. Like I don't like they all those things. They just look so like lack of.
you can't do that. I mean,
I mean, when I
there has to be a team that has the it factor, and I just don't think that Duke this year has that. They're still
right,
going to win this game by a lot, or they should. I wouldn't be shocked if it's really close going into halftime, just because that's how the tournament works.
right.
But you're still taking Duke all the way.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. Just looking at the numbers to give them some credit, all five of their starters average double digits. Jeremy Roach off the bench is really tough. Mark Williams averages a hair under 3 blocks a game. Like they're on paper are a very tough team, but that's the problem is that it's just on paper, right? Like
Yeah.
very like, and that was all that. A lot of that stat is predicated before they went on this drought. Like I shouldn't even
Mhm.
call it a drought, but before they went on this kind of string of tough luck.
Mhm.
Um, they've really had a tough go of it. Like I'm looking at it right now. They score 80 points a game, which is I'm looking for it. It's I can go back to it, which is
It's
highly ranked in the nation. It's actually
it's
ninth. They're in the top
it's
10
fair.
in
It's elite. Let's.
yeah, like that like that's top 10 in the nation, right? Like they
Mhm.
score at a high clip. They give up 67 points a game, which in the nation that ranks I'm hunting for it here. I mean, it's not as high, but 67 that is 117. So like and that's opponents a lot like scoring on them
Mm,
opponents points. So like
mhm.
once again, I know the ACC had a rough year. I'm still calling like it's still the ACC, right? Like I'm not going to say it. Like
Yeah,
I'm not gonna harp on Duke for be even if it's the ACC on a down year. It's still a very tough conference.
it is. There's still North Carolina in there, even though they're down.
Exactly. North Carolina, Virginia Tech was doing has really picked it up as of late. Like I can't look at them and blame them for that. But
And hey,
like
apparently Clemson's a quad one win.
I know apparently, but like if you look at it though, like defensively, they struggle sometimes. They you can
Yeah.
find if you find that space, they do not collapse very well. And it's going to be hard for them if they can't figure it out because offensively, obviously they're going to score. They have that old man game with
Mhm.
just throwing Bonchero down there and just letting him go to work. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they counteract because if they do meet Davidson in the second round, who once again can shoot, maybe a little undersized. I mean, anything can happen.
Anything can happen, and I'm gonna be honest, Dave. If Davidson and Duke match up, I genuinely I would not be too far away from picking Davidson
As of right now. Like it
as of right
obviously
now.
it like
Absolutely,
honestly, if they come out and just kill Fullerton by like 40, I would change my mind. Like not gonna lie. Like I just need to see how they react to this loss. They should have reacted better to the North Carolina loss, but now I want to see how they react to the Virginia Tech loss.
I think the fact that like I'm not mad about the North Carolina losses as much as I am about losing in the ACC tournament, even though the tournament does not mean as much as what it used to. Like I think we can all agree that
Right.
conference tournaments have kinda lost a little bit of value recently because people aren't going as hard if they know that they're in it.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. And I mean, heck, I mean, a little off topic. Rick Barnes was saying that teams that are locks, like his Tennessee team, shouldn't even play in them at all, so that teams
Yeah,
that aren't locks can play for that auto bid.
yeah.
No, so
I'm
that's what you're saying is very relevant.
It is, and I think it's just hard to come back from that because I think once you it's especially it being Coach K's last year, I think if you lose to North Carolina, you know you're getting your behind end shootout. Like, that's just very blatantly obvious. You gotta come out there after that and, like, absolutely destroy somebody. They
Right.
didn't.
Oh yeah, I agree. So
That's
before we move on, that has been the West region. Ready for this next
ready for the East.
side of the bracket?
Let's get it going.
All right. So first we got Baylor and Norfolk State. Another quick one. Like I don't think.
No, we don't really have to go too in depth in that one. It's Baylor.
I mean, the most I'm gonna say is that like Baylor's Baylor. They average a lot of points. They don't really.
They
I mean,
really
they're average from three. They shoot over 46% from the field, so they're pretty good.
they're gonna play good defense. That's what they're
Exactly.
gonna do.
They got a lot of upperclassmen, like a lot of like they have what it takes. But the one thing that will get them later, and this will be the last thing we say about it, they cannot overcome injuries. They're gonna have a lot of issues.
They are. It's gonna be it. They're how far they go in this tournament very much so depends on their health.
Exactly. Like they have four double-digit scores, but LJ Cryer is one of them. He's currently out. He's actually their leading scorer by a point of a point, like 13.5, and Akinjo. Why can I not pronounce names tonight? James Akinjo averages 13.4 right behind him. So it's like
That
it's not,
boy.
you know what I mean? It's not like it's that big of a deal.
No, it's not. But still, you got to find offense from somewhere, and from a team that doesn't really have a go-to guy.
Exactly. Like
Having your leading scorer out really hurts.
yeah, and then Jonathan Tatachua, it's another guy. Their leading rebounder. He's a good shot blocker. I mean, average shot blocker. He's okay. But just another big. He's a guy they could really use. But like you just said, they really play basketball by committee, but they do it correctly.
Hmm.
So like, yes, they're injured, and I think that will hurt them down the road, but not today.
I agree.
Following that, we have a very fun matchup in my opinion: North Carolina and Marquette. Two teams with first-year head coaches in Hubert Davis and Shaka Smart. Obviously, Shaka has the experience over Hubert because he's been around a little bit and actually won in the NCAA tournament. Garrett, what you think?
I'm gonna go. This is not something I would have done 2 weeks ago. North Carolina.
I agree with you.
I think Hubert's got his team playing really good at the right time, and it's gonna be hard for Marquette. Although I like Marquette, they're uh they're a fairly good basketball team
Right.
led by Justin Lewis, who is very good. But I don't think Marquette has enough to top North Carolina in this one.
Oh, right. And like, and when you look at the numbers, these two teams are actually very like they're very similarly based. They both have a deep rotation, about 9 to 10 man rotation. Like you just talking about the heat that North Carolina's been on. They've won 12 of the last 15 games, which has been since January 24th. Marquette, they're a very fast style of play, but with without having other offensive weapons outside of Justin Lewis and Daryl Morsel, gosh, they don't really have a good defense, and I think that's what's going to hurt them, right? Like I just said,
Yeah.
North Carolina lives and dies by the three. Their defense is very mad, borderline bad defensively. Um, they're still decently hot. I mean, like I just feel like in terms of key players, you look at I just named two of them from Marquette: Justin Lewis and Daryl Morsel. But North Carolina has Armando Bacot, Caleb Love, Brady Manick, R.J. Davis. It's just like I feel like with Marquette being such a bad defensive team, that amount of weapons really gonna hurt them.
I I completely agree, but this I'll give Marquette their shot here. This entirely depends on how well North Carolina shoots the ball.
Oh, definitely, like definitely.
Because their team is really reliant on three-point shooting. They just are. They shoot really well from the 3-point line, so it doesn't really affect them. It did early in the year, and once they started shooting the ball a lot better, you saw them go on their run.
Oh yeah, like
But
when they turned that corner, it like everything changed.
it did, and having Armando and Caleb Love, those two to like lead you, which Manic and Davis are no slouch either, but those two right there to lead you, it's gonna be they're a hard out
Right.
right now.
The only I feel this is the only issue, okay, that I see with this team.
Hmm.
And okay, I know that they did very bad to start the year. So their 3-point percentage, while it is still very average, it's not very good. Like it's not like what you would expect for a team that lives or dies by it. And also a team that shoots a lot is going to have a lower percentage just because they shoot it a lot.
Yeah,
So they average about a 36.2% from three, which is okay. Armando Baycott shoots 12.5%.
yeah.
Not the guy you want shooting, but I
No, they
digress.
should genuinely just tell him never to take a three, and I
Yeah,
think he would
just
be better off.
pack the basket.
Yeah.
And their other three main scorers, Love, Manic, and Davis, all shoot at around 38. Love is at 37%, but like they're an all right like 3-point shooting team. But I think that once again, you're describing, I think that that's just precedented on the fact that they shoot a lot of them.
Yeah.
And now that they're hot, I feel like that number might be a little bit swayed from their bad play at the beginning of the season. So yeah,
I
I agree with you.
Yeah, I think if you could look at probably like their last, what, 2 months or something, you could see it probably being closer to 40.
Oh yeah,
And
I would
it
say closer to 41 actually.
that and let's be honest, if you're shooting over 40% from 3 as a team, that's
Phenomenal.
elite.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're both pretty in concurrence here about North Carolina. So let's go ahead and move on to the next matchup. Here's our other bump: Wyoming or Indiana, who's actually playing right now.
I'm gonna go Indiana just for star power.
See, I did go Wyoming. But honestly, it really doesn't matter. Like in my
No,
mind,
it doesn't.
because I
It really doesn't.
this isn't like the other 5-12
No.
in the West. It's not the Yukon, New Mexico. I think I like St. Mary's a lot. Hey, we've talked a lot about Yukon and Arkansas about their fast defensive style, the way that they attack your
Mhm.
passing lanes. St. Mary's is another one of those great defensive teams. They allow only 60 points and 60 and a half points a game, which is 12th best in the nation. But their
Mhm.
style of play is very slow.
It shows if you look at they've got 4 guys in double digits, but after that it drops off hard. You're
Exactly.
looking at 12, 12, 11, 10, and then it goes to 6.
Yep. No,
I mean, you just it's that's a really hard style of play to win when it comes to the tournament.
oh it is. And I like them to get by whichever Wyoming or Indiana. I just think that they control the tempo so well. Matthias Tass, Tommy Cuse, Logan Johnson, all seniors, all three leaders, like elite players in their style. They have 8 upperclassmen. I would say their biggest issue is that they limit shots, like in shot selection, because their pace of play is so patient that sometimes they get down at the end of the shot clock and they just got to heave one.
Yeah.
And we're talking about things that'll bite teams. I think later that will hinder them heavily when they play a team like moving on to the next matchup here, which I think we'll be in concurrence who wins that one too. But
Yeah.
before I name that team, when they run into that team, I feel like they're going to have a lot of issues with.
That absolutely will. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Uh, who I think if Indiana wins this game, I fully believe that they will beat St. Mary's.
I disagree. I not that I dislike Indiana. I think Indiana is a solid. I love Mike Woodson. I think he is a great coach in college level. He's been a great coach wherever he's been. Honestly,
Mhm.
like his Nick days, he had that Nick team really good.
He 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 was always a really good coach and got blamed for being in bad situations. We'll
When
leave it there.
he was a guy that got blamed in Cleveland, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, he has had a rough go of it, but I'm happy he's back home. They do have. I love Trace Jackson Davis. He's a
that
He's a stud.
he is.
Xavier
He's
Johnson's another one.
Yeah, they're really good together too, and that's the big thing, and that's truthfully why I like Indiana. I don't think Indiana goes farther than the first round. Like,
Right.
I'll leave it there. But like you get a really good coach, and you get two guys who are really good and work really well together against this St. Mary's team who slows it down. I like this matchup for Indiana.
Yeah, and I mean that's completely fair. I just the way St. Mary's plays, and granted, to add more credence to what you're saying, Indiana did have to go through a very tough Big Ten.
And it will be a dogfight, whatever game it is, especially because of the way that they play.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
it's gonna be a really good game to watch if you like defense and slow
Oh
offense.
yeah.
It's gonna be really good.
Yeah, as I'm watching here, this will timestamp us. Right now Indiana's beating Wyoming 34-32, and Wyoming's on the hunt. They're on a little run here. Like a 5-0. But anyway, moving forward, we're going to UCLA and Akron. This is another one of those I think it's easy for us to pick.
Yeah, I feel like we should just go ahead and say UCLA and move on.
Yeah, Mick Cronin's team. I mean,
Mm, mm.
obviously with Johnny Juzang's injury late in the season, it's sad, and it's kind of worrying to see his up and down play as he battles through it.
Have they ever like said what it was?
I think it was
Has
an
there
ankle
been?
sprain.
Yeah, that's
And
what I thought. But like, wait, he's kind of been in and out so much. It's hard to
right.
tell.
I think what makes like if he plays at the level that he can play, I think this really like speaks to what UCLA can do and what will lead them to a really far tournament again this year. In terms, I know I lean on stats a lot, but I think it really does tell where they are in terms of a team if you're trying to predict, right?
Hmm.
They rank top 50 in both points per game and opponents' points per game. So
That's
not only are they scoring the ball, they're tough to score on.
yeah, that's that's a good combination. Unless I like is it Jamie Jaquez Jr.? I don't know how to
Yes,
say his last name.
yeah, Jamie Jacquez Jr. Yep,
I mean, I really like that kid. He's got something.
he's got that it factor.
He does. And I'm very excited to see him kind of be the guy for a little bit.
Oh
Just
yeah,
see what he's got.
and you look at the rest of that roster, it's a solid 9 man rotation, all with tournament experience. Well, not all, but most with tournament experience, 10
Yeah.
upperclassmen. Like,
Mhm.
I can't see where Akron would beat them, but to give Akron some credit, they have the MAC tournament MVP and Enrique Freeman, who came out of nowhere from Akron walk on to the star of the MAC, right?
Mhm.
They also have this 7'2" center in Ali. He's been doing very well for himself.
He is
I think he averages over 2 blocks a game.
uh Ali
Yep,
point 0.2 blocks a game.
point two. Okay, he averages a block a game. But regardless, I mean, like they have decent depth, 4 double-digit scorers. They're an overall young team with a 10 man rotation. But I think the youth will end up costing them, especially against a team like this UCLA squad.
Yeah, it's just I mean, I'm gonna be honest, this is a game that it would have to be UCLA losing, not Akron winning.
Yep, and I
I feel
mean
like that we've said that a lot, or I have, but it's genuinely true
it
in
does
most of
ring
these
true.
situations.
Yeah, and Akron is pretty good defensively. They rank 25th in the nation at just a hair under 63 points per game scored on them. So like they're pretty good defensively. They're deep
Mhm.
rotation, but that's the problem is that they're young. They're very young. They're not supposed to be
Yeah.
here. They're upstart. And I think when you put them up against this battle hardened UCLA team with Mick Cronin at the helm, I just don't think it will lead to anything good.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. But I'm fairly confident in UCLA on this.
It was a fun run for them though.
It was.
Alrighty, moving right along. The next matchup, and I think that this is the game of the first round. I really do.
Really? That's
Texas
a
and Virginia Tech.
this is a game that you would love.
Oh my,
You are that guy that
oh my,
just loves
dude,
defense.
oh my gosh. Like I
Mm.
love the grit and grind. I love to see which team just kind of count me in. I love it. Two great defensive teams. You've got two top 10 in opponents' points per game. You got Texas at 59.6, which is sixth best. Virginia Tech is at 62, or not top 10, sorry, top 25. Virginia Tech is at 62.3, once again, 22nd in the nation. So you got two really tough defensive teams. They're both deep. They both have a lot, like, their stars star when they need to star. But I'm going to give Virginia Tech the edge here. I love Mike Young. Chris Beard's a great coach, but in all essence, this has been a kind of a down year for him. His expectations were really high. Being led by Timmy Allen, Marcus Carr, and Andrew Jones, you don't have a bad squad at all, right? Like they're long, athletic. They have great, like we just talked about, great defense, but they're a poor shooting team. And since February, since the beginning of February, they have gone 5-6, and on a slide.
This is not my favorite Texas team that we've had in recent past. Like they have a little bit of talent, don't get me wrong. They have the star talent in
Right.
terms of where they were ranked, but in terms of like how good they are in college, I don't they just don't have it this year. And I think Virginia Tech has a couple guys that have that type of talent.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like I love Mike Young. Mike Young, he was a guy at Wofford. Remember when Wofford was making those tournament runs? That was Mike
Yes.
Young.
Yeah.
And you look at these guys that he's got in there. They're old. They're guys that he either recruited or played at another mid major like him that he convinced to transfer to Tech. They're led by Kiva Luma, another forward, Justin Mutz, and Hunter Couture. And those two bigs down low create problems because they're straight up forwards, right?
Yeah.
They play with the ball on the ground. They're not really going to back you down that much. They're going to face you up, and then they're going to attack you like a guard. And they're so hard to defend against. And then Hunter Couture, he's not someone that you would like. Looking at his stats, he's not someone that would pop out at you. But when you watch him play, he has that ball on a string. He is
Yeah.
hitting people like he can absolutely shoot.
Yeah, I feel like we're definitely in agreement on Virginia Tech. I don't even say edging this one out. I say they win by probably double digits.
Now, I another guard that Virginia Tech going on, like Storm Murphy's another guy that's got the ball on a string. Hunter Couture is more of a shooter, but Storm Murphy is a great distributor. He's a great player. I exactly what you just said. Like I can see Virginia Tech. They're just hot, and Virginia Tech
Mhm.
also. I almost forgot to mention, if there was a Six Man of the Year award in college basketball, it would have to go to Virginia Tech's Darius Maddox. This man
I
is averaging when you look at his points, is not the greatest. He's averaging just over 6 points, just under 2 rebounds, but he shoots 52% from three. And this is the guy, I don't know if you watched, but I think he put up in the North Carolina game, he put up like 27. And then he was also the guy who hit the buzzer beater in overtime against Clemson.
I knew he put up 27, did not know he was the guy who hit
Dude, did you see it?
No, I have
I
not.
mean, I was watching it, and this man, he was the smoothest, most calm, ice water in his veins type of shot I've ever seen. 15 seconds to go. This man is just lightly jogging up the court, gets to his spot, does a little hezzy pullback, and just cups it.
Bro, those are the most dangerous people that just know that they got it like that.
Yeah, and this guy's, there's 6 man.
I mean, sometimes there are people that just deserve to start that just don't for some reason. I feel like we all know that there are people like that. He kind of seems like he might be one of those guys.
He might fit into
But I
that
get
role.
he might fit into it better. He might be a Lou Will, Jamal Crawford
Yeah,
s
he's still
player.
young. He's only a
Yeah.
sophomore, so we'll just have to see kind of what happens with him. But I love his game. I love how deep this Virginia Tech team is. They play with a fire and a passion, and with the X's and O smarts that Mike Young is coaching them up. I think that they're going to go on a run, and I think it starts with this win.
I'm here for it.
All right, moving on again. The next game we got on our slate, Purdue and Yale.
Do we need to spend a lot of time on this one, or are we
No,
just in
no,
concurrence that it's
no.
Purdue?
Yes, yes. Let's
Oh,
just. Yeah. It's Purdue. Jaden
yeah,
Ivey, insane. They got twin towers down low. Now, while they do
yeah,
have a little bit of issues defensively, they're going to be so hard to score against, or I mean, outscore, I should say.
yeah.
That like
This
it's
is it's not a matchup that anyone should look forward to with Purdue.
no, but if we get that Virginia Tech Purdue matchup, I have I have some words about it, but we'll see. Have to see next week.
I, I'm here for him.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so we're gonna move on again. It's gonna be fun, I think. Murray State, San Francisco.
This should be a really interesting game just to see kind of what Murray's made of because you know how well they did regular season. I feel like we both know. San Francisco's a pretty decent team. I mean, they're the 10 seed for a reason. I personally, I'm gonna go Murray. I think they run them.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like that close. But we'll see. You can never count out a team like San Francisco, especially against a Murray State who hasn't played all of the best competition.
No, you're right. I mean, they did have a tough Belmont team and a tough Morehead State, but that was really it in the Ohio
Mhm,
Valley.
mhm.
But I will say this Murray State team's built like a Power Five team. They have
They are.
they have decent size. KJ Williams, Tevin Brown, and Justice Hill lead the squad. They're great defensively. They're 17th or they're 21st in the nation in opponents points per game at 62.3. Um, they can kind of go stagnant offensively if you can limit their stars, like Morehead, who is a great defensive team. So I'm not going to bash Murray State too much, but Morehead was able to have a lot of really tough matchups against some really close games because they were able to limit Kevin and KJ and Justice, but not enough to win the game.
Yeah, that again, that's an OVC matchup. It's a rivalry. You
Yeah,
know how those teams play. Like
exactly,
you've had them scouted for years at this point. Like there's not much that you really need that's going to be different.
exactly.
And I don't see San Francisco beating Murray.
No, I mean, as we just talked about the OVC, Murray State hasn't lost since December 22nd, which that loss was to Auburn. So, we know how good they are. They went undefeated in the OVC, including the conference tournament. Their lack of front court depth could be an issue because they don't really have like outside of KJ Williams. Once they try to dig into their bench, if they get into foul trouble, they could really get into some heat.
Yeah, but that does that really matter against San Francisco?
No, no, no. I say this more like if San Francisco was to win it, this would probably be the storyline, but also moving forward.
Yeah.
San Francisco, they're led by John Marie Bouya, Khalil Shabazz, and Yahan Masaliki. Masaliski. I can't pronounce his name, and I'm sorry if you're ever
I'm
listening.
gonna go with Masalski.
Masolski. Is that an I or an L?
It looks like an L.
Okay, then Masolski, whatever his name is. I'm sorry if you're listening. They're a great 3-and-D team. That's really what they defend. That's what they do. They have a nice 8 to 9 man rotation, 6 upperclassmen, decent size. Their leading rebounder and shot blocker Maliski. He missed the WCC conference tournament, and specifically when they play Gonzaga due to an injury. So if he's out, he's a leading rebounder, and I think he's a leading shot blocker too, off the top of my head. They're in
He is over 2 blocks a game.
yeah, they're in trouble if he doesn't play in this Murray State game, especially.
Yeah.
They do average top 50 in points per game at 77, but once again, that's against a mediocre Western Conference, or yeah, you know what I'm saying, and
Yeah, they
West Coast
seem they
Conference.
seem to be a very streaky three-point shooting team too. So,
Yeah,
you know as well as I do, if this team gets hot, they can shoot the ball really well. They've got some guys that they can get the ball to get a bucket.
there's a chance.
There's a very small chance.
But if I'm being honest, San Francisco is the exact type of team that they would have played against in the OVC.
Yeah.
And they've got
And they're just
obvious as we said, they've got that like they've won 20 straight games against teams like
yeah.
San Francisco.
Murray's coaching is just phenomenal with when it comes to scouting and player development. So
Right.
you got to expect that they're going to be prepared for this game.
Right. And so in the last matchup in the East, Kentucky and St. Peter's. Peacocks.
You want to spend time on this one, or should we just go Kentucky?
I mean, I'm going obviously like we're not going to spend a lot of time. I will say St. Peter's is a very good defensive team. So they might be able to give Kentucky like fits, but that is the most I think they'll do. I don't think that they'll be able to do anything else other than maybe make it hard for Kentucky to score, but Kentucky will still drop 80.
I have a feeling this is kind of going to be similar to that Duke game where we shouldn't be surprised if it's close at halftime, but we also shouldn't be surprised if they win by 20.
Exactly. Like it'll like people will fret and freak out, but then come the second half buzzer,
Hmm.
Kentucky will be up by 20. But yeah, so that's the East.
That was
Going straight across the bracket instead of going up to the top right, because why not? So our first matchup, as we're recording post Texas Southern, Texas A&M Corpus Christi matchup, Kansas will be taking on Texas Southern. I think this is another one of those. We're not going to spend much time on that.
it's Kansas, and it should not be very close.
If Kansas, just Kansas, you know.
Yeah, it can't even on Kansas's really bad day, Texas Southern doesn't even have a guy averaging over 10 points a game. It's hard to see that team beating
Oh
Kansas.
yeah, they got 4 double-digit scorers. They shoot decent from three, kind of mediocre, 35%. They shoot 48% from the field as a team, which is nutty. But Ochai Agbaji is insane. Christian Braun is insane.
Mhm.
Then you got two guys that really round out that starting five: Jalen Wilson and David McCormick, who's it's good. They've looking at their roster real quick here. Where'd it go? Oh, that disappeared. But they're very deep. They have veteran leadership. They're a team that they'll have a good run in this tournament. And we'll dive more in depth into them as they get into their second round matchup when it's actually interesting for them. But now we move on to a very interesting matchup in San Diego State and Creighton.
Very. These are the matchups that I love. The offense of Creighton is just it's very spotty, and it always is. It's very hit or miss. It depends on how they shoot.
Oh right, yeah.
And I'm always a big Creighton guy just because I love the style that they play. You know what they're doing. They're coming out there and they're just going to try and outshoot you.
Oh yeah, and I think on top of that, what makes them incredibly dangerous this year is that they're also a much improved defensive team.
They are. They,
They teams shoot a combined 39% against them, which is 21st best in the nation.
I think they're a lot more athletic this year than they are
Oh yeah, they're led by their
normally do.
bigs, and which Ryan Hawkins, Ryan Kalkbrenner, and guard Alex O'Connell. The only issue with them is that their lead guard, they have so many Ryans, and it's tripping me out. But their lead guard Ryan Nembhard, he's out with an injury. This guy averages over 4 assists a game. He's their leading distributor, kind of the guy that facilitates that offense. It's going to be interesting to see how they counteract and try to get that defense moving against one of the best defensive teams in the nation in San.
I'm Without the leading distributor, you always have to worry more than you normally do.
Oh
But
yeah,
this Creighton team, they're just they're always moving the ball, they're always shooting. They don't really worry too much about how great their shots are because they
right.
trust their guys to shoot.
They also commit
Now,
a lot of turnovers.
they do. But you got to look at San Diego State. We got Matt Bradley averaging 17, and then the next guy's averaging 8.5. So
Hey,
an
the men suck.
offensive, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see you gotta look and see, like, I don't see a world where it's a real I don't it can't be high scoring. It can't be. And I think that's where Creighton loses because they have to have it be high scoring.
Oh yeah, and see, here's an interesting fact. So I just named to you that Creighton's teams against Creighton only shoot 39%. Teams against San Diego State only shoot 38. So this is going to be a very defensive game. Like, yes, Creighton does love to shoot the ball. They love to try to run up that score from the 3 point arc. But without their main distributor and the fact that they're turnover prone against a team that is arguably better defensively than them, they're second in the nation in opponents' points per game at just under 58 points allowed. That's ridiculous.
It is. I feel like me and you both kinda have this thing for defensive teams, and I think that's where we both go San Diego
Oh
State.
yeah, like not that Creighton's not defensive. Like they are.
No, they definitely are, but I think we all know San Diego State is better defensively.
Right. Like it
They're coaching wise that they've always been that way.
Yeah, no, definitely. And they do have some issues offensively, like when their stars aren't on, they can have some struggle scoring. But in
Mhm.
this game, their stars cannot show up to the game and they probably would still beat Creighton.
That is very fair. And listen, I'm gonna be honest. this is complete bias for me because Creighton's let me down in the past few years, so I'm going San Diego State.
Same. I don't think it's biased at all. I think it's a smart pick. So this next matchup, now that we've moved on from San Diego State and Creighton, is one that a lot of people will say like have on their upset radar, and I heavily disagree with them. I do not agree with any of this upset business with Iowa and
No,
Richmond at all.
not at all. Iowa should probably beat them by 20.
Oh, definitely. Like Keegan Murray is a superstar.
He is. He's incredibly talented.
That man is insane. He averages the most out of any Power 5 player in the nation. No, not number 1. He averages over 23 points per game, which isn't in all the nation, but in terms of the Power 5, which arguably is much harder than where whoever else scores more than he does. But he averages over 23 points per game. They're a decent defensive team. They have nice size. They are a little younger, but with that 10-man rotation, with your star, with guys like Jordan Bohannon and Patrick McCaffrey being kind of your wingmen to Keegan Murray, they've been 12-2 since the beginning of February, going on that huge run to win the Big Ten tournament. They average 83, almost 84 points per game, which is 4th nationally. I don't understand the upset hype on this one.
I don't either, because if Richmond comes close, they're getting the ball to Keegan, and he's shooting 40% from three, over 50% from the field. That's for a guy in college, that's almost unheard of.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think Richmond has anybody that can match his game. Like they don't have anybody that can match what he's putting out for Iowa.
No, you're right. And when you look over, I get when you look at paper, right? When you're guys like us who are just looking
Mhm.
at stats and trying to look at teams that could be the Cinderella, right?
Mhm.
I understand why you would go Richmond just because they're a team, they're hot on the right time. They've got a really solid 8-man rotation with decent size and 12 upperclassmen with 9 seniors, right?
Mhm.
They're a team that they got a lot of experience, but not in the tournament. That's the problem. They only went 10-8 in the A10, and the only reason that they won the A10, even with all their experience, is because they won 4 games in 4 days in the Atlantic
Yeah.
10. You know what I'm
But
saying? Like,
I yeah, I get it. And I'm gonna put it this way. These past few years the tournament has been very upset kind of prone, and I think that's straying people because of all of COVID happening.
yeah,
You got all these upsets happening because people aren't prepared, people aren't playing what fourth. But you're gonna get these teams healthy, everybody's all together. I don't see that many upsets happening this year in comparison to years past.
yeah, and that's just, I mean, in years past, it's just been such an astronomical number. I like Richmond's okay, but like I love Iowa. Like I know that might be a personal take, but like I think they have the best player in the Big Ten, maybe the best player in all of the Power Five outside of maybe like Oscar Sheboy.
Yeah, he
Like you
at
can
the very minimum you put him top 5.
you can argue with Johnny David and I read his name earlier from Kansas, Agbaji.
Jaden Ivey.
Jaden Ivey's another guy you can put in there, but like I just feel like in if you wanted to say that you can't even say that. Like he didn't have an easier schedule, you know? Like
Yeah,
he's in the Big Ten. And so it's like I genuinely feel like this guy has flown under the radar. I don't know why he doesn't have more respect. But I can't wait for them to go on a run in the tournament, especially by squashing the Richmond Spiders. And like I don't understand that one. But
I
this
don't either. I feel like we're very much so in concurrence that Iowa should beat the crap out of them.
exactly. So, but speaking of upsets, this next matchup, the Providence South Dakota State. I know South Dakota State's the most obvious like Cinderella team to pick, and they're not my most
Mhm.
Cinderella team, but they are my first major upset. I think, because unless you count Virginia Tech, but I wouldn't.
I mean, out the only other team that you could count maybe Davidson.
Yeah, I
And
don't think that.
I don't really consider that much of an upset to be
Once
perfectly honest
again,
with you.
this one is obvious. South Dakota State, they are tough, right?
They're very good.
They've won 21
Very
straight
good.
games. They have the Summit League Player of the Year in Baylor Shearman. They average as a team. They shoot 45% from 3. as a team. They average just under 87 points per game, which is second in the nation only to Gonzaga.
Hmm.
They in terms of their negative, they're undersized. Defensively, they're atrocious. They have no size, or they have size, but it's not good at rim protection. So in turn, they give up a lot of points in the paint. They allow 73.4 points per game, which is in the very bottom half of the nation. They do live and die by that three. They do have 6 legit shooters, so I guess that kind of it doesn't really matter if you live or die by it because one of or maybe 2 of those 6 are gonna have to hit.
Yeah.
But when you're playing in the NCAA tournament, nothing is promised. So like, if you wanted to say South Dakota State would lose to Providence, I wouldn't argue with you, but I would also, but like I think personally South Dakota State is gonna win this.
I just I would find that one. This is going to be one where we differ. I have Providence going. You look at the teams that they've beat this year, and you're they're all really good.
Oh yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
like Ed Cooley's
they
team's tough.
lost to Virginia 58-40. That's very obviously not one of their best games, and Marquette 88-56. Like other than that, they're not really losing too many games.
No, yeah, and looking at their schedule, I agree. Like if their one loss is to a down year like Virginia team earlier in the season, and their other
Mm,
losses are to tournament teams, like they're not look their
uh,
losses aren't bad.
no, their losses aren't bad, and they have very very good wins.
Oh yeah, they got 9
I
upperclassmen on their roster.
and I think you see with so many people picking them to get upset, I feel like they come out really hot, and I don't see South Dakota State winning that one.
I do. Like I'm gonna take them just because like I said, they're so big on the offensive end, and Providence isn't the best defensive team. They're respectable. They're top 150.
Hmm.
But in terms of opponents' points per game, once again, I want to clarify that I haven't thrown any numbers in there. I just looked at where in the nation they landed on how much other teams averaged against them. So they have top 150 in terms of opponents' points per game, and they have a heavy reliance on their big three and Nate Watson, Al Durham, and Jared Bynum. So if I just feel like if some of those guys are having a rough go of it, and if and this is not going to happen because Nate Watson's a big man and he's just going to dominate down low. But if they can get the ball out of their big three's hand, and if they can get hot from three, if South Dakota State makes it a shootout, they're winning this game.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
But we just got to see
Uh,
because like obviously if you're Ed Cooley, your first thing you're playing old school basketball. You're slowing the game down. You're making them like shoot tough shots, and you're just attacking the paint. Right? Like
Yeah,
that's the goal.
that's you have to. I feel like if you come out with any other starting game plan, I feel like you're doing yourself a
Yeah,
disservice.
you're playing their game.
Yeah.
And I will say, I was reading, I don't remember who it was from. It might have been Joe Lenardi. I can't remember. But someone was saying that Providence plays down to their opponents. I
Mm,
do not agree with that. I think,
I,
yes, they've had some close games with teams that they probably should have beaten. But when you look at it, they're in a tough Big East. And at the end of the day, they're one of those teams that they're so hot and they've got so much talent that teams are going to play a better game against them because they want to beat them, right? They want that on their record, on their resume.
they are, and you also got to look at. It's not that they're losing they're still
Exactly.
winning these games.
Exactly. Like that's my point is that like people will say they're playing down, but they're not losing these games. Like yes, they've got a lot of tough games, but maybe because people see them as a tough opponent that they want on their resume as a good resume builder for a tournament bid. You know what I know you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get you. That's, this will be a very good game to watch.
Oh, this will be like the coaching from each side is going to have to be insane. Or not Chris Mooney, Eric Henderson of South Dakota State versus Ed Cooley. It looks going to be so much fun to watch.
It will be for every person should watch this game.
Oh yeah,
Truthfully,
it's gonna be one of the games. I still think the Texas Virginia Tech game is gonna be better, but the Providence South Dakota State game is gonna be.
yeah,
All right, so are we moving on?
yeah. I'm good.
Alrighty, so next we got LSU and Iowa State. This one's tough.
This one is tough, and I'm gonna be honest. I think this is upset time and where you go Iowa State.
I want you to
L-
shoot me why.
LSU is just so streaky. I don't trust them. I really don't. I can't trust them in big games. They just they scare me.
No, they're not. They're not a great shooting team, and they definitely do kind of sway from hot to cold really quickly.
Hmm. I honestly though, I really like the way that Iowa State plays too. This year they've impressed me when they needed to impress me on the very few 3 4 games that I've watched of them. I I've watched more of LSU, and I think that's why I can confidently say I would rather have Iowa State.
Right. Like I hear you and I agree with you in terms of like helping your credit. Like Iowa has a lot of upperclassmen, a lot of experience. I mean,
Hmm.
they know what it feels like to lose, so they're going to be playing that much harder coming off of a 2-22 season last year.
Hmm.
But well, and they're good defensively. But LSU, streaky as they are, they have a lot of experience. Their best players are both seniors, or well, two of their three best players are both seniors, and Darius Days and Xavier Pinson. Um,
Hmm.
their best player, Harry Easton, is a sophomore, but they have good size. I mean, yes, they're under a surprise interim coach with the Will Wade firing, but I just think with where Iowa State is right now, I think that they're just happy to be in the tournament. So I genuinely feel like they're just going to get outshot. And not to mention, LSU is a pretty decent defensive team. Actually, I would say pretty like good because they rank 33rd in terms of opponents' points per game.
I get it. I perfectly I can completely understand why you would go LSU. It's just the level of confidence that I have in this LSU team is as probably as low as it's been in years.
Oh yeah, I mean like I want to see how what they've done recently, like to end the season, because I know they had a slide. Like they did not do
Yeah.
as well at the end of the year as what they had started. I can't remember exactly what happened. Yeah.
Oh, it was bad.
I mean, I wouldn't say bad, but like they had, yeah. I mean, from January 15th on, they had a 3 game losing streak. Then they beat A&M. Then they had another 3 game losing streak. Won 3 games, lost 2 more, won one, lost one, won 2 more, then lost to Arkansas. So yeah, definitely streaky. Definitely kind of like where do you rank them? But I think that they can get one more win because think about it. With Will Wade's departure, whatever
Yeah,
punishments. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
was about to say you gotta take into account Will Wade not being there too, because he is a really good coach.
Oh, he is. But my thing here, they've got Kevin Nickelberry, who is an assistant under Will Wade, being their interim, right?
Yeah.
He knows the system, so I'm not going to say it's Will Wade on the sideline, but it's the closest thing. And that team, wherever you think, whatever LSU is now, them bringing in a new coach is going to change. And the punishment from the NCAA, you're probably going to get like scholarships taken away. So there's no telling like what they could be like in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So I can see this LSU team kind of banding together and being like, okay, this is probably it for a while. Let's give it all we have so that we can at least have a win under our belt in the tournament.
Yeah, there's really 2 ways they can come out. They can come out flat, like they're just like, "Oh, well, this is where nothing matters." They can come out like, "Okay, we're probably not gonna be here for a while. Let's
I could see that
let's
going that
let's
way as
do
well.
yeah, let's do everything we can." I mean, it's gonna be it'll be very interesting to see how LSU comes out, and the first probably 5 to 10 minutes of this game for LSU will determine whether they win or not.
Oh yeah, most definitely. All right, let's go ahead and move on. We are at differing opinions on LSU and Iowa State, and that's fine.
Mhm.
Moving forward,
I
Wisconsin and
don't think
Colgate.
don't think we're gonna disagree on that one.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Johnny Davis is playing the way Johnny Davis plays. They're gonna blow by Colgate.
Yeah, there's
Again, not
it's
that
just
Colgate's a bad squad. They just can't match up.
no, you're gonna have a very hard time beating Wisconsin no matter who you are.
Exactly. Defensively, they're tough.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on after that, USC and Miami, another really good one in my opinion.
I'll let you take the lead on this one. Who are you rocking with?
I'm going Miami actually. Like I know that once again, that's not that shocking. I don't think. Like
Mm-mm.
USC, they are big. They have four double-digit scores. They have a nice nine-man rotation. Lots of tournament experience. They have a Memphis transfer Boogie Ellis playing well, but Isaiah Mobley, who was kind of a rotation piece last year behind Evan, has done pretty well. Drew Peterson's done well. Um, but they've lost 3 of 4 games coming into this, and they just look tired.
Mhm.
Like in the Pac-12 tournament, they didn't look like the way that we were accustomed to seeing them.
Mhm.
So with that in mind, you look around. Like I look at their points per game, and they're above 150, which is good. Obviously, they average just a hair under 73 points per game, and they average top 100 in opponents' points per game and just a hair under 66. So like they're for a team that's like USC, I'm not gonna say that they're bad because that's pretty good, right? That's a pretty decent stat line to have in terms of
Mhm.
just numbers. But that doesn't blow me away.
Yeah.
And so when I look at Miami, in terms of just a matchup standpoint, Miami and Jim Larinaga, they run this four guard, stretch four, playing the five man out offense where they have four double digit scorers. All four of them are guards. They just run the floor, and when they're in the half court, they're flying around, they're making these passes, and the one guy that's not flying around can jump out and hit a three. They have a lot of veteran leadership, six upperclassmen. They do have issues with interior defense, which is not going to be good against an Isaiah Mobley in a big USC team. But if Miami gets running and Miami kind of gets it to that high scoring, Miami's averages just under 75 points per game, which is also top 100. Um, they are not very good defensively. They average 71 points allowed. But they're a decent shooting team. They play fast. They're small. Jim Larinaga, the older he gets, the better he seems to coach. I don't know. I just have a feeling about Miami. I just think this is a bad matchup for USC. But in turn, you can also, and I know this argument's coming from you, but you can make the same argument for USC against Miami because they kind of they kind of contradict each other in every way.
They do, and that's where I step in to go ahead and pick USC because I feel like they're just gonna dominate down low. If they can slow the game down enough, I don't think it's pretty.
Oh, I can definitely see that. Once it's another one of those. It depends on how the game's officiated.
Oh, yeah, it'll be very heavily dependent on how tight the whistle is, and
Oh yeah.
but I don't I really truly believe that USC dominates down low just because and if they don't, they're doing themselves a disservice again. That's just
Oh yeah. No. If
you have to come out with the game plan that you're going to dominate down low. And see the other thing that I like about USC too is with Mobley, he's a great passer.
oh yeah,
So
he can easily come
if
out to that free throw line and distribute.
oh, if they're trying to double down on him, he's gonna find somebody.
Oh yeah.
And then that off I love the way that their offense is run with him kinda having the ball a good portion of the time, and I think it works tremendously against Miami.
Oh no, I can see that happening exponentially. I mean, with USC being the far better defensive team, and like we said with the refs, if the refs allow USC to play physical, and if
Mhm,
and Andy Enfield slow the game down, it's
mhm,
over. Like USC is going to win. But like I don't know, it's just the way that Miami's been playing recently. They were projected to finish bottom of the ACC, and in a bad year in the ACC, Miami shines, right? Like they play very well. They've kind of found their niche. They're where they're going to be.
yep,
I don't know. Like it's just kind of like just the reason I take Miami is because of what I was describing earlier. Like I see USC, they look gassed. They've lost 3 or 4, and Miami's kind of been on like they've been solid. So like I take Miami just because like of that. But honestly, like there's such contradicting styles that if the one that controls the tempo will win the game.
yeah. I genuinely think it's gonna be USC, but if it's Miami, I would not be shocked in the slightest because they are a really good team.
Exactly. Like it's one of those that like you see it and it could really go both ways. But meh.
Yeah.
All
It
right.
is it's a really good 7-10 matchup that I'm excited to watch.
That'll be another one of those. It'll be like the Providence, South Dakota State. Like the what Midwest comes with a lot of good matchups.
They do. It's been this side of the bracket has rivaled the West for how good it is going to be.
Right. I think if we were to pick, I think the Midwest first round's better so far than the West, just because the West's second round looks really fun,
Yeah.
but the Midwest first round is more entertaining.
Oh, it's gonna be so challenging because you're looking 8-9's gonna be good. 5-12, 4-13, 6-11,
Yeah.
7-10. I
Yep.
mean, outside of the first 3 seeds, there's not really many teams you're just like, "Oh my god, they could all."
Exactly. And we're speaking of the first three. Once we're moving down to Auburn, Jacksonville State. Can we take a minute before we get too far in depth with these two teams? Okay.
Mhm.
Why is Jacksonville State here?
I have no idea.
They shouldn't be.
I don't get it. That listen, the A-Sun is just
They're punching the
what
air.
are the yeah, what are they doing right now?
Nothing.
Like,
Like,
this is
well, it's not the A Sun's fault. It's the NCAA and a dumb rule. But like Bellarmine, for those that don't know Bellarmine is a school in Louisville, Kentucky. They were D2 up until 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
it's 2 or 3. They won a lot in D2.
Well, let me put it this way: the reason they moved up to D2 was because they won the D2 national, or moved up from D2. They won the D2 national championship, moved up to the A Sun in the D1, right? 2 years later, they win the A-Sun tournament championship, but because of a technicality with the NCAA trying to dissuade D2 teams from moving up, you can't join a higher conference or higher league and then go to the NCAA tournament until after 5 years of being in said conference. Why? Like, why?
NCAA does not like fun. I feel like that's the biggest thing that I can say
Oh yeah,
because it's true, and
Bellarmine's offense is beautiful.
it
It's
is.
this no dribble, six passes first before you can shoot type of offense. It's so much fun to watch, and it's really one of a kind.
It's old school, and you don't see it very much anymore, but I'm here for it because I love watching Bellarmine play.
Oh yeah, they're so much fun. Like that's the thing. They're not the biggest. They're not going to be the best defensive team. Like they're going to stop you from time to time. But because of how they play offense and they're so hard to guard, they would have been really interesting. And even in this matchup against Auburn.
What I was about to say, wouldn't what I feel like this would be a lot more. Uh, I'd be a lot more hesitant to pick Auburn if they were playing Bellarmine than I am that they're
Exactly.
playing
Like
Jacksonville State.
Jacksonville State's decent. They have decent size. They've got decent scores. But I mean, Jabari Smith is going to have a field day.
This is a game where Auburn's guards shine too because
Oh yeah.
they're playing at their level.
Oh yeah. No, they're going to have a really fun time of it this weekend because
Yeah,
Jacksonville State just isn't shouldn't be there, and they are not nearly as talented in any way, shape, or form. All
you
right,
got to wonder how Jacksonville State too does with Kessler and Jabari because they're going to be all over the
there's no one
place.
that can guard them. Like
No,
they're gonna get whatever they want, and you know who else is gonna have a day?
who's
You
that?
know who I'm gonna say?
Say it.
The pride of Eastern Kentucky University, Wendell Green Jr.
I knew it.
Gonna
I knew it.
have a day.
He probably will. He's what's gonna happen is he's gonna pull up from the volleyball line or where the volleyball line should be, hit one, take about 4 more, probably miss 3 of them,
Oh yeah, get
and
subbed out by
it's
one.
gonna yeah, it's that's the cycle of life for Wendell Green.
Or he could see Jacksonville State be reminded of his days at Eastern Kentucky and just drop 30.
I feel like both are probably likely to happen. Like if he drops 30, he's definitely shooting well from the volleyball line, you know?
Exactly. But yeah, that's the end of the Midwest. We round out our first round predictions with the South.
Loved that bracket.
Coverage/predictions with the South. So our first game, I don't even think we really have to look at it.
No, it's very, very obvious.
I
It's
mean,
Arizona.
Arizona is like I love Tommy Lloyd. I love that this man is the protege of Mark Few, and I hope that this man outdoes Mark Few in his first season as a head coach. I'm just gonna be real.
I'm here for it.
Gonzaga has always irritated me. because they're one of the best. Like, let me put this out there first, okay? Gonzaga, because Gonzaga fans will probably shoot at me. I respect Mark Few and I respect that program because it's super hard to sustain success at any
Mhm.
level in any conference, and they've done it at a way in a way that is never before seen. So I respect it. But it agitates me that they get so much respect come March because they win their conference year in and year out, and they do get a lot of good recruits, right? Like I'm not denying all that. They have talent and they're very successful. But they always get a 1 seed, or they always are highly recruited or highly ranked, and they always are predicted to win a title, and it doesn't matter how far they go, they always come up short. Do you know why, Jared?
Never play anybody in the regular season.
That's what I'm saying. They always have a really good non-conference, but then after December 2nd, they always end up they go through the West Coast Conference and they breeze through it, right? This year,
Mhm.
it was I will give them credit. The West Coast Conference was a tiny bit more challenging because of St. Mary's and San Francisco, which are both in the NCAA tournament, as we've talked about already.
Very good teams.
Very good teams, but I digress. I still think the West Coast Conference is absolute trash, and I don't think they played even St. Mary's. I don't think is a good enough team to have given them any sort of test that they will see in the tournament. And I feel like just like every year, the first time they run into a team that's genuinely as good as them, they're going to falter. So
I'd love to see Gonzaga go like Pac-12.
that's what I'm saying. Like that would be my first thought. Like even if they go Mountain West, like the Mountain West, like Boise State, Colorado State, Nevada is historically been pretty good. Like you go to a conference that actually has like Wyoming's in the Mountain West. Like you go at least go to one of those two conferences that has more than two teams being successful other than you.
Mhm.
And once you actually have a challenging conference, right? Like then I think you will not only win a national championship, but more importantly, my respect. I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean? Like that's my big
Yeah.
plight with Gonzaga and why I love Arizona because Tommy Lloyd is doing what Mark Few was doing at Gonzaga at an actual Power Five conference.
That that man, I I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I was not very sure of Arizona, but when it got later in the year and they just kept winning, it was hard to not be very certain that they were one of the best teams in college basketball.
Oh my
And
god.
coach, they're probably they're. I think I can go ahead and say they were top five coach this season.
Oh yeah.
And recruiting wise, you got the way they recruit. He's recruiting straight perfect to his system, and I'm here for it.
Oh, I completely agree. Like they give up 87 points a game and they score 84, which I'm almost for certain is top 5 and probably third in the nation. Like they are so deep. They have a lot of skill that, as you said, fits to his skill level, fits to his style of play. Everyone knows the role. They star in that role. They are one of the toughest teams in the nation, which is why I think they should have gotten the number one overall over Gonzaga. And the reason they're going to go far in this tournament is because of everything. Because right now, Tommy Lloyd and Arizona are everything that Gonzaga is not.
Those are some strong words, brother.
Well, all I'm saying is until Gonzaga proves me wrong, it doesn't matter if they make it to the NCAA, the national championship, because the second that they play somebody that actually has the same amount of skill set as them, they falter because they don't play anybody.
I think you don't know. We go back to the west side of the bracket too. Who does Gonzaga play until what
That's
the
what I'm
elite
saying.
elite eight?
Look, like they play. Okay, Georgia State. We know we talked about that. They get Boise State
Mhm.
or Memphis, and both of those teams are like meh. Like they're okay, but
Yeah,
Gonzaga's obviously better, right?
yeah.
They get to the Sweet 16, they play UConn and or Arkansas, and I guarantee you they will probably lose that game.
I think if they get Arkansas, they lose. I don't know about UConn,
No,
but
you
I
like
think if they get Arkansas, they lose.
no, I mean like I can see why, but like even like we talked about UConn and their strength of schedule or not strength of schedule, sorry, their defense and UConn's defense. So I feel like UConn with how hard they play, I think that they will give them a lot like just like Arkansas would give them a hard time. But I can see why you would say Arkansas would be the more difficult opponent, not only because Arkansas is a better team, but also because UConn gives up those easy baskets sometimes.
Mhm,
And Gonzaga is such a high scoring team. Like you have to respect them. They have a lot of talent. And they score a lot of points.
mhm.
But like when last year when their best win was against an upstart UCLA team that just was very lucky that they even made the tournament, right? On
Yeah.
the Cinderella team of their life, won a play-in game to get there, right? Not trying to disrespect UCLA. They now have a lot of talent and they are much better than they were last year.
Yeah,
But
but we never expected that UCLA team to be anywhere near where they got.
and do you remember what it took for Gonzaga to beat UCLA?
Not off the top
A
of my
buzzer
head, but
beater.
yeah,
It took it was Jalen Suggs. I'm pretty certain. I could be wrong about
yeah.
that. A Jalen Suggs half court heave to beat an upstart UCLA team. You know, like that's my big issue. Like they ran into Baylor, and Baylor was just an absolute like buzzsaw. And not only did they lose to Baylor, they lost to Baylor pretty bad.
Yeah.
Which is why like I respect Gonzaga. I do not believe in them. And
I
until
just
they prove me wrong, I will continue to have this thought.
I I get it. I truly do. I I used to be all a part of the Gonzagas. They're definitely going to the Final Four every year because of the amount of talent that they have, and that is very true. They have arguably one of the most complete teams in college basketball. But when it comes down to a late in the game situation and you're telling me it's Gonzaga or it's Arkansas, I'm taking Arkansas because I think they're better coached and I think they have a better system.
More battle tested.
They're battle tested. They've been in those late game situations with the Kentuckys, with the Auburns. You know,
Exactly.
Gonzaga's out here against St. Mary's, which no disrespect to St. Mary's, they're not Kentucky and they're not Auburn.
I want to pull this up real quick. I'm looking at the quad system, the NCAA. Okay, so
Hmm.
I want to, if I can find the right one. I hope this. Nope, that is not. But I want to see um what quad one wins Gonzaga has. You know what I mean? Like I want to see. I can never find it.
While you're looking that up, Indiana did just beat Wyoming 66-58.
Well, that's huge. Hey, breaking news for people that listen to this tomorrow or never. But hey, let me look. I have it right here. Oh my gosh. Hold on. I'm going to find this. There it is. Okay. I have a website that I've been using, and I finally found it. WCC, hit me up. There they are. Gonzaga, they've played. Okay, they've played more than what I thought. They've played. They're 12-3 in quads 1 and 2. They played 13 quad 1s and 2 quad 2s. But now I want to compare that with. Who are we talking about? Arkansas.
Hmm.
SEC. Arkansas has played. Let's see here. 12. Okay, so they're 12-7 in quads 1 and 2, which is a lot closer to what I would have thought, not gonna lie. But point still stands for me. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I completely get it. This is the year Gonzaga's kind of played a little bit of a tougher schedule, so you kind of got to give them a little bit more.
I,
But
I can I can
you're
admit when I'm wrong. Like I'll give them
you're
some respect.
I think you're still toning it down though, because I don't know who the quad one wins are, but I would say there's some that
All I'm saying, and
probably shouldn't be.
this is all I'm gonna say. Okay, so I'm
Hmm.
looking at their quad 1 wins. They have 10 of them. Pretty good. That's actually great.
Yeah.
And their first, so Texas, we talked about Texas. They're okay. UCLA and Texas Tech are the next two, and that's pretty good.
Hmm.
But at Santa Clara is a quad 1
Really.
win.
Ooh.
San Francisco, home to San Francisco. Like, I get it. That's okay, I guess. At BYU, they host St. Mary's at San Francisco. Then they played, obviously, San Francisco in the um, WCC tournament, and then the same thing for St. Mary's. So it's like, let me count this right here. San Francisco 3 times, Santa Clara once, St. Mary's twice. So like I don't know, like now that I look at it and actually dissect it, I actually retract what I said because most of it, like I don't even know why Santa Clara is a quad 1 win
No, it really shouldn't
or
be.
BYU.
Yeah.
Like I get they're on the road, but you take those two away, they're 8-3. And like I can honestly I can keep chipping away at this because I don't know if like yeah, I don't know. Like my point I retracted my point, and now I'm reinstating my point after looking at their quad one wins. It's not like they. Yeah, I once again now hold on. I know once we have to get back on track. But one more. I want to look Arizona. They are they're actually in quads 1 and 2. They are 14 and 3 in quads 1 and 2. And their 6 wins in quad 1 are Michigan, Illinois, UCLA, Washington State, UCLA and USC.
Not
Other
sure how I feel about Washington
I'm just
State, but
saying.
the other ones are definitely quad one.
Exactly. Their
Uh,
quad twos
opponents.
are, if it'll ever show up, Wichita State on a neutral court. Once again, I don't know. Wyoming, Colorado, 2 good ones. At Stanford, UCLA, at Arizona State, Washington, and at Washington, at Utah. The whole point of this is that they're rewarding like away from home court.
Yeah,
But still,
I just
those matchups, just looking at it, like I don't know. I just feel like Gonzaga, I just don't believe in them with their strength of schedule. Moving
I
on at long
yeah.
last.
Let's finally get to the South bracket.
I know I had to go on my Gonzaga rant. I'm sorry.
It was gonna happen eventually.
I guess. I mean, yeah. Right now we got Seton Hall and TCU, the 8 versus 9, the Pirates and the Horned Frogs. Sounds like a bad novel.
Sadly for me, I am a Pirates fan. This is Pittsburgh Pirates though, but I'm still rocking with Seton Hall on this one.
See, I would agree with you, but I actually don't. Um,
That's terrible.
yeah,
I would agree with you, but I just don't.
yeah. Um, I'm gonna start with the positives because once again it's an 8-9. I can easily see it going Seton Hall.
Oh, it absolutely could go either way.
So to kind of go off what you're saying, they are a great defensive team. They only allow 66 points per game, which is like an average. I mean, above average when you put it into the context that they rank 91st in opponents' points allowed, which is pretty good. Top 100 is really good.
Yeah.
They have the 12th most block shots per game in the nation with 5.5. Great. And we have another name that my Kentucky born and raised cornbread self can't pronounce. His first name is Ike. His last name is Abiyagu. Something like that.
Yeah. It's close enough. I'll give it to you.
Thank you. He averages over 3 blocks a game. And then his front court partner, Tyrese Samuel, averages just under 1 block a game. And those two together are one of the toughest tandems in the country. They're so tough to
Mhm.
guard, to score on. Like if you're trying to
Mhm.
go to the basket. They have lots of size. They have 8 upperclassmen. The 2 big things that I think that really hurt them, why I went TCU on this, besides the fact that TCU's just been playing really well lately.
Mhm.
They lost Bryce Aiken, their best scorer and their best distributor, to injury in January, and since then they've been prone to isolation basketball. So like with their other guards that they can rely on, which in any system or in terms of their opponent, a defensive opponent can really really hurt. And that is exactly what TCU is. They're scrappy, they fight, they're physical, they have decent size. Offensively, they do struggle from the perimeter, but in terms of opponents' points per game, going back to the defensive side of the ball, they only allow 65 points, which is 50th in the nation. So I see that, and I see that they're a defensive style. You know how I am. Defensive teams in
Mhm.
the tournament, I trust a lot.
I get it. I really do. I don't. I'm genuinely. I don't know if TCU has enough offensive firepower. But if they turn them over enough, it doesn't matter what you do. This
Right.
is gonna be another this is gonna be another one of those games where if you like defense, watch this one.
Yeah. No,
Because it is probably gonna be in the 60s and the 50s in scoring.
oh yeah.
And if it's not, I feel like I would be very, very surprised.
Yeah, and when I look at it and when I see that Seton Hall doesn't have their best ball handler and TCU's really good, strong defensively. I don't think it's as much that TCU will turn Seton Hall over. I just think that they will limit them to perimeter shots in their isolation proneness that they are.
Mhm.
Seton Hall will take a lot. This is why it'll be in the 60s, 50s. Is exactly what you're saying. Is because Seton Hall will take a lot of late shot clock shots, have maybe a few shot clock violations against TCU.
Mhm.
I don't believe I don't believe Seton Hall has the offensive firepower. You're talking about TCU doesn't. I actually think Seton Hall doesn't. I think TCU, well, they don't have to have offensive firepower because defensively they're going to be so stagnant. They're so physical. Obviously, once again, this is another reliant upon the officials situation.
This is definitely going to be a very good game, but I think the way that Seton Hall ended the year 8-2, I love seeing that. Love seeing a team get hot right before the tournament, and I think that's kind of why I lean Seton Hall right here.
Hey, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I don't
Um,
I don't judge you for it. I genuinely think that it's a good pick, and like this is another one of those like it can go either way.
I think this is one of the closest 50-50 matchups that we have in this entire tournament right now.
Oh yeah. So moving on, we disagree again. I will still stick with my Horned Frogs.
I respect it.
Houston and UAB, the University of Alabama at Birmingham. What you got?
Houston. I I I've watched Houston several times. Haven't really watched much UAB to be honest with you. Houston is they're fairly good, and I'm gonna enjoy watching them win by 20.
But yeah, I mean, like I have Houston as well. Kelvin Sampson's job at like his coaching gig that he had to do this year to overcome injuries and to like they lost two of their like I think they had like 5 or 6 double-digit scores and they lost 2 of them, including their leading scorer.
Mhm.
But they've been able to turn it around. They still have 4 double-digit scores. They're deep. They're scrappy. They're another one of those defensive teams. They are fourth in the nation in points allowed at just a hair under 59 a game. They are as tough as they come. I think the only issue that you could see with them moving forward, like after this matchup, is that where they're injured and those guys aren't coming back, their depth could really be an issue.
Mhm.
Like once that fatigue hits in, and but I mean it is March, so like we've seen crazier things happen.
We have.
Um, on the other side, Andy Kennedy led UAB. Do you remember Andy Kennedy?
Not necessarily, but
No, he
you're
was a
gonna
coach at Ole
refresh.
Miss
Oh yeah,
for a
Jesus.
while.
Why did I forget that? I was
Yeah,
thinking you were
yeah.
talking about a player.
No, no, Coach Andy Kennedy, the guy that like retired from Ole Miss and then didn't retire because now he's at UAB.
I appreciate that refresher. Good lord.
Yeah, I know. Like I remember when he was fired. I remember him very well at UAB. He was the guy, if I remember correctly. Another tangent, but do you remember when that Ole Miss player forgot his jersey?
Oh my god. Barely. I'd forgotten about that until you said it.
Yeah, yeah. Like that was under Andy Kennedy. Andy Kennedy went to call a guy in, and the guy went to take off his practice uniform and saw he didn't have his jersey on and bolted back into the locker room. And you just see a disappointed Andy Kennedy with his bald head just staring at this guy. He didn't get subbed in either. That guy did not get subbed in at all.
I wouldn't have put him back in. You can't even put your jersey on. You
Oh
don't.
yeah, that
You're not.
exactly. Like it was very well deserved. But I'm the point is I'm happy to see Andy Kennedy back in the NCAA tournament. Well, I mean I don't even remember if he made the NCAA tournament at Ole Miss. I'm just happy to see his name.
I get you.
Yeah, like it's just what? Yeah, but his Andy Kennedy's Blazers are led by Jordan Walker and Quan Jackson. They have 2 other double-digit scorers with this team, so that brings it up to 4. They are the CUSA Conference champions. They're very balanced. They're aggressive on both ends. They have 9 upperclassmen with decent size. They average six, or they average 80.7 points per game, which is sixth best in the nation, and their opponents only score 66. So they're like I just said, they're balanced. They're deep. They're long. But it's what's so funny about this and what I'm going to heavily enjoy. I mean, obviously it's Kelvin Sampson, but you get 2 non-power 5 or whatever power 6 if you want to count the Big East teams that are going at it that are top 10 in either defensive or like offense in defensive in terms of opponents points per game in Houston or points per game in general in UAB.
Hmm.
I like this one is probably more upset prone than what I'm going to admit.
Yeah. I mean, it's a 5-12. We all know 5-12s have a little bit of a history here, but I don't see Houston losing this one. But I think this UAB squad, they can put up points in bunches, and it's teams that do that are very hard to beat when it comes to March.
But yeah,
Because we all agree that when guard play in March wins you games, and they have some of the best guards.
Like I definitely, yeah, like this is definitely, if you're still trying to pencil in your bracket before Thursday, I think this is UAB is definitely a squad that you might want to look at and really kind of delve deep into, because Andy Kennedy's a good coach. Like you just said, they have great guards and they score a lot.
Mhm.
Now you can attribute that to the CUSA, because the CUSA doesn't compare to the American. At least I don't think so.
I, I don't know. I don't think it really matters, truthfully.
No, you're right, but I
What
do
about
think I mean like I think there's something to be said on if like who you're playing.
yeah?
Like, are you scoring? Like for instance, South Dakota State. Like, it's impressive, or even Gonzaga, right? Like those two. It's impressive that you guys are putting up close to 90 points a game. But when you're playing, Santa Clara, you know what I mean? Like, or when you're playing,
Mhm.
I don't even know who else is in the American East. Like off the top of my head, I'm gonna assume like gosh, I don't want to say Alcorn State. Not High Point. Who am I thinking of? I gotta look up
Um,
the American East.
yeah, I'm trying to figure out who you're thinking of too. 'Cause
There is
I'm
a team
blanking
in the
here.
American East that I know of. But the point that I'm trying to make is that when you don't really have like difficult teams to play against and you're putting up a lot of points, like yes, it's impressive. UMBC, Stony Brook. Okay, yeah, Albany. That was who I was thinking of. I wasn't thinking of Alcorn State. I was thinking of Albany.
I got you.
But like these teams, like none of these teams, like when your second best team is UMBC, like for Vermont. Like I'm looking at UAB in the CUSA. Let me go right over to the CUSA real quick. I'll tell you exactly. Ooh, I passed. Elliot didn't. Where did it go? But you know what I'm trying to. UAB. There they are. They're 27-7.
Oh, that was close.
But yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I still feel like this is a game that Houston takes.
Oh, agreed. I mean, this like I will say the CUSA did have a team that I felt should have that might have gotten snubbed in North Texas.
Mhm.
They're tough, man. North Texas is not like they're no joke. And like I mean, I don't think anyone's really talking about that.
I think more people are talking about Bellarmine not getting in because of NCAA, and it's taking away focus from North Texas.
Yeah, I know you're right, but like I mean, just looking at their quad one and quad two, North Texas was 6-4 in the first two quads. Like they do have two losses in quad three, which really does kind of hurt. I don't know. Maybe we're missing out on North Texas here a little bit. But anyway, we have to get back. We have to get back here.
Okay,
All right, Houston. Picking Houston.
Houston,
Illinois and Chattanooga.
Illinois. Like it's kind of. I don't feel like there's much of a chance of Chattanooga beating Illinois in this game.
You know, I actually disagree.
Really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Um, I don't know why. I just have this weird feeling. Like Chattanooga, they've got a 20-point per game scorer, Malachi Smith. He's a legit stud. He shoots 41% from the field or 41% from three and 50% from the field. Like he's a legit scorer. He averages almost 2 steals a game. Like he's legit. He's got a legit sidekick in David Jean Baptiste, who averages close to 15 points a game. He shoots 41% from three. He definitely doesn't shoot as good from the field at 37 or from deep at 37, but I probably said that all wrong. But shoots 41% from the field and 37% from three.
There you go.
Yep, thank you. He's not a bad like number two, and then you got Silvio De Sosa, the transfer from Kansas, who averages double digits. He averages 7 points, or I mean 11 points, 7 rebounds, over a block. Like this is a team like they play a solid 7, 8 deep, no 9, like 9-man rotation. Like I believe in the Mocs. I watched them win the Southern on that buzzer beater from their second best player.
Listen, I I'll give that one to you. I can understand why you think that they have a chance. but I just don't see anybody stopping Kofi Coburn early.
No, they
I
have
don't. I don't.
this Illinois team is angry, and they have a better team than they did last year when they got upset.
Uh, mhm.
So by uh, Loyola. So I like this is more me just trying to like this is my shot in the dark.
I respect it.
My Cinderella right now. All right, and now I
Okay.
guess we'll go ahead and move on to Colorado State, Michigan.
Um, I'm good with that one.
All right, cool. So looking at these two teams, in terms of opponents' points per game, Michigan allows almost 70 points per game, while Colorado State only allows 65. They score like almost identical 73. Colorado State averages closer to 74, but when you look at them outside of the record, they're very closely ranked, or like in terms of opponent scoring and what they score. Garrett, who you
Mhm.
got in that one?
See, this is gonna be my shot in the dark, and I'm going Michigan.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have Michigan too.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't feel like they were that hyped up just because of how bad they've been.
Well, I think you got to take into account that they've had the third hardest strength of schedule in the nation.
And that's why I have them winning. You
Exactly.
got you got this strength of schedule, and no offense, Colorado State, they're not really playing the teams that Michigan is.
Another
And
solid Mountain West school.
yeah, and I don't really see anybody being able to stop Hunter Dickerson down low. Or Dickinson, sorry.
No, I know what you mean, but like I mean, just in kind of flipping this around and kind of defending Colorado State, they average. I mean, one you got David Roddy, a guard who averages over 19 a game. You got Isaiah Stevens, another guard who averages just a hair under 15. You've got they are deep as all crap. They've got like a 10
Mm,
man rotation, a 9 to 10 man rotation. Looking at the guys that play, they've got some depth in terms of veteran leadership. I don't know. Like I definitely think Michigan is the better team, and I'm gonna go Michigan as well. But this is gonna be one of those that like if Colorado State does it, I'm not gonna be surprised.
I get that, but you get their leading rebounders he's a 6'5" guard. Like that's not gonna fly when you're going up against Dickinson and them. Like they're gonna be bigger and more athletic. And I
You're right.
think that I think Colorado State's really gonna struggle with that.
You're right. I just don't like outside of the fact that they've played everybody that you could play in the top
Mhm.
30 all year.
Mhm.
I just don't like that they've been super inconsistent. That's like my only issue is that like which Michigan shows up.
Oh, that's very true. Yeah, you can't count Colorado State out. It's
Yeah.
just I think Michigan takes this one.
No, and I understand that. And hey, I agree with you. I like Michigan a lot in that matchup. Moving on again, we have Tennessee and Longwood.
Do you wanna spend a lot of time on this one, or you just wanna pick
No,
Tennessee?
no, I
Alright.
had no idea that Longwood was a school until they won their conference.
Yeah, I had no idea they existed.
I think they won the Big South. I think that's the conference they won. I don't really remember.
Let me look. Yeah, the Big South.
I mean, they score at a high clip at 76, and they're a decent defensive team at 65. But this is another one of those cases of like, who do they actually play?
Yeah,
Like
I
that's
don't think you can really put
no,
much into their stuff.
like they're
Like, they shoot the ball okay,
yeah.
but your Tennessee's defense is suffocating. You're not beating Tennessee.
Oh my god, like when like Kennedy Chandler and Santiago Vescovi are two of the toughest guys you're gonna ever find.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I completely agree. Like they don't like this Tennessee team doesn't really shoot it as well as you would like to see, but they average 4 blocks a game, 9 steals a game. Like they're defensively, they are suffocating. They're so challenging to score on. I think Tennessee. Like I know this is a flash forward, but in some of my uh keep wanting to say drafts, but in some of my tournament brackets that I filled out, I actually have Tennessee winning the whole thing.
I I very much so have them going to the Final Four in the 2 brackets that I filled out.
They're just so tough. Like defensively
But
and offensively, they can
they
score
are.
whenever they want.
Yeah, that defense is suffocating, and you know they're coached really well. So they're gonna go a long way this year.
Yeah, Rick Barnes is ridiculous. He's a great
He
coach.
is He is. His players love to play for him too, and
Oh yeah.
that's a big thing in college.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like we were talking about the Eric Musselmans and the Dan Hurleys. Like Rick Barnes is one of those guys.
Absolutely.
All right. We're not going to spend any more time on that because this is just a Tennessee love fest in that matchup.
Hmm. Hmm.
So now we're going to move on to, I think, another one of those games that's going to be so much fun. The 7-10s have been really fun.
They have.
Like, I think all 7-10s out. Like, I think the one that you can probably like point to and say that it's the least entertaining out of all of them is probably one of the most interesting storylines, and that's Murray State and San Francisco.
Yeah.
But looking at Ohio State and Loyola Chicago, Ohio State's got to be like punching the air because they what kind of draw is this?
Yeah, they very easily got the toughest 10 seed in the bracket.
Oh yeah, Loyola. How are they a 10 seed?
They realistically, you'd think they'd probably be an 8.
Oh
I
yeah,
feel like they should be an 8,
you could make an
but
argument that they should be the 7 in the matchup.
yeah, that's just that's a little. It was very disrespectful them getting put 10th. Uh,
Oh yeah, and like in here's the thing, man. Like I can see maybe why because this is Drew Valentine's first season. Drew Valentine, the I think he's the older brother of Denzel Valentine.
I'm pretty sure he's the older brother. Yeah.
Yeah, the older brother of Denzel Valentine. He I mean, he's 30 years old. Like it's hard to gauge this team just from that perspective because we don't really know what this young coach can look like, but also this guy was underneath gosh, who the Oklahoma head coach right now.
Oh, you had to say it. I just had his name pulled up not 10 minutes ago.
Like now it's killing me because I always forget his name because he's a great coach. Porter Mosier.
Order. Yep.
Yep, there we go. Porter Mosier leaves for Oklahoma, and they hire his assistant of 4 years, Drew Valentine. And that's the thing. He's young, and I feel like that's kind of what the committee gauged it on was that he's this young first year head coach.
Hmm.
But honestly, man, like this guy, he's gotten them playing like Loyola. Like Loyola, they brought back a lot of talent, a lot of guys that had been there last year who had seen that, who honestly like they've got so much in terms of experience. And this guy like this isn't your average first year 30-year-old head coach.
No,
He's been
he is very well versed when it comes to this tournament at 30.
exactly and like opponents points per game for the season. Loyola's at 19th in the nation at 61.7. So they're a tough defensive team. They're an aged team, seasoned vets who've been here, who've done that. I, I'm not gonna lie. I know this is probably a popular pick, but I think Loyola wins this.
See, I've watched a lot more Ohio State than I would like to say that I have. Like, can't stand Ohio State. But if there's one thing that I know they do, it is choke. That team gives up more leads late in games than any other team in the nation. I don't have the stats to back it up just from watching it. But I can almost guarantee you that Loyola wins this game because Ohio State gives them the lead in the last 3 minutes.
I mean, you that probably could happen. I think if Ohio State wins the game, they're obviously going to get a big game from EJ Liddell. He averages just a hair under 20 points per game, 8 rebounds. Guy shoots 49 from the field, 37 from three. Like he's a really respectable forward who he's going to give anybody fits, but also like he's got to show up.
He does, and this should be a good matchup for him. He should be dominant. But you got to question what else are you getting out of the Ohio State guys? Is Branham going to be the number 2? Is Kyle Young? Are you going to are you relying on shooting? Are you relying on cutting? How are you getting your offense outside of Liddell? And this should be a very interesting game, but I'm fairly certain Loyola takes it.
They're just the seasoned vet. Like
Yeah.
I just don't. I can't. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't see. This is another one of those where I just don't see any situation where Chris Holtman's squad in Ohio State beats this team because like we were talking about, in reality the roles should be reversed. The seeding should be different. It should be Loyola as 7.
I would be okay with it if it was.
And I don't think a lot of people would question that.
No.
Like the only thing I think that you can legitimately like point to and say, okay, Ohio State has Loyola's number is that versus the top 25, Loyola's only had one opportunity to play a top 25 team and they lost it.
Yeah.
And Ohio State is 4-3. Like I still think Loyola is a better team. I think it'll be a really fun matchup because they both average the exact same points per game.
Hmm.
The only difference is that they both score 73.8, so 74 points per game, but Loyola allows a significantly less, 61 to Ohio State 68. That's just one. It's one of those matchups that I really think could be fun to watch. I really do think Loyola is a better team, so I think that they'll win that. But it's another one of those. If Ohio State does win, like I'm not going to be so shocked.
Oh no, not at all. Just because like I'm a big EJ Liddell fan, and he can dominate this game. Hey,
Right.
he should dominate this game. I just Ohio State late in games, I just can't trust them.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a perfectly fine opinion. And I think now we move into our final matchup of our first episode, Jarrett. But before we get to that, I want to ask you how have you felt about this recording?
It's gone a lot smoother than I expected.
Me too. Like I might have like a little more experience, and I think that's
You
probably why like on my end I don't feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like if you want to watch another show that I'm in, Subs and 15 in progress, go hit it up.
Did did it release today?
No, we release tomorrow,
Okay.
but that's my only plug for Subs and 15. But I think second chance points is gonna be a legit thing. I really do.
It's at least at the minimum gonna be a weekly show that me and you both do, along with the football show that's coming out. Is it Friday?
Yeah, it comes out. So this show will actually be Mondays. Today it's like I know it'll be out. What will probably be Wednesday. I mean, I'm gonna
Mhm.
get it up as soon as we're done here, but it's 12:21 a.m. on Wednesday morning. So, but this show will be recording every Monday, so come out like late Monday night, and then the same thing for Fridays. Yeah, is mostly Audibles, the football podcast. And in case you're wondering, for those listening, Jarrett's gonna be the lead on that one.
Gonna be very exciting. Super excited to dive into free agency and the draft. That's my favorite time of the year. So it's gonna be really fun for me, and I hope Ryan enjoys it as much as I will.
Hey man, I'm here for the ride.
All right, I love that. You ready to get into this last game?
I mean, it'll be quick.
Yeah.
Villanova and Delaware. What you thought?
Eh,
Thinking.
I mean, it's obviously Delaware, right? I'm just kidding. All right,
Hey, I'm not. Hey, if you look at points per game, Delaware scores
uh,
more.
absolutely. No, you have to go Villanova 2 seed against the 15. I don't think Delaware has it in them to beat Villanova.
Right.
Been wrong on the 2 and 15 before. Thank you, Duke. But
Yeah.
this isn't Duke. This is Villanova. They're really well coached, and I don't see a path for Delaware to win this game.
No, Villanova's. They have one of the best coaches in the country. Jay Wright, Billy Gillespie, or Bill, not Billy Gillespie. Colin. No, is it Colin Gillespie?
Now you've thrown me off. I did know, but now I
It is
don't.
Gillespie.
It's Gillespie. It is Colin. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Colin. Billy Gillespie. Yay, the old
Is it
coach.
Billy? Yeah, he's the coach. I was really
I'm
confused there
talking
for
to
a
Colin
second.
Gillespie. It is. It's been a long day.
Yeah, I'm running on like 3.5 hours sleep. I feel you.
Yeah. So Colin Gillespie's back. He's playing well. That Villanova team is just playing like the way you'd imagine the Villanova team would play. I
Hmm.
do want to make a point. I don't think they should be the two. In fact, I've been waiting all show for this. How is Tennessee not a one?
I honestly just because of the way they started the year.
But like, what do you mean? Like, I felt like they've like I know that they like didn't play the best at the beginning of the season, but like I don't see. I'm looking back at their schedule right now. They lost. Okay, they. You know what it is? I'm
Yeah.
looking at it right now. and I know exactly why they gave it to Villanova.
Why is it?
On November 20th, so the third game of the season, Villanova beat Tennessee by 18.
Yeah.
That is exactly why they did that.
Yeah.
I dislike that to the strongest degree. It's
Agreed.
November, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this Tennessee team,
They're so far different than what they were at that
I
point
know,
too.
like
It's
so they lost to Texas on January 29th, but when February 1st hit, they beat A&M and they've only lost to Arkansas since.
hmm
And like that
Arkansas at their best too.
I know, like that's a great loss. Like they're all their other losses, like they've lost to Alabama, LSU, both tournament teams, then Kentucky, once again a tournament team, and Texas, a tournament team.
Yep.
Like all their losses are to tournament teams. Like their other losses are Villanova and Texas Tech. Like I don't know what the committee looks at. Like I don't know what they're thinking. But when you look at the SEC versus the Big East, the SEC is tougher. Villanova or Tennessee won the tougher conference. I don't know. I don't think like with the way that the one seeds end up falling, like I with the injuries with Baylor, I don't think that they are the same team, so I think they should have fallen to a 2, and I think Villanova should have been the 3 with Tennessee being the 1.
I get that. You just can't punish Baylor for injuries with the season that they have because it's based on the regular season. They
No,
can't take into account injuries.
that's fair.
I I wish they could because it would make it better.
Was not
But
just
you just
injuries. Like I mean
yeah.
like that was the first thing I did say injuries, but that's
Yeah.
not so much
I
what
get
I'm
what
thinking.
I know what you're trying to say. I'm
Like
just like that was the first one that I used.
when you look at their losses, right? And this isn't like they lost at the beginning of the year to Villanova. Baylor lost to Oklahoma State in January.
Mhm.
They lost to okay, like the Alabama and Kansas losses are fine. Texas Tech after that's fine, but then they lost to Oklahoma. Like I'm
Mm.
looking at a Baylor team that number one, like they are injured, and that is something you have to take into account because if you're trying to make the best, you're talking about one seeds, the best teams in the nation. Without that talent, yes, we were talking about earlier, they are a team by committee. They do have their stars, but in like without those two, like they're still a good team.
Mhm.
But they're not at their strongest, and I feel like that has to be taken into account. Number one. Two, when you're comparing Baylor and Tennessee, number one, I think Tennessee is far and beyond better than Villanova. I think they won a tougher conference, and I think that all their losses are respectable in some account. But when you take what I just said and you apply it to Baylor, Baylor has two really bad losses compared to all of Tennessee's
Mhm.
in Oklahoma and in Oklahoma State. Not one of Tennessee's losses are teams that aren't in the tournament.
Yeah,
All
that one's
seven. Think about it. There are 68 teams in the NCAA tournament, and 7 of them are the teams that beat Tennessee. All 7. Not one team didn't make the tournament for Tennessee, which in my mind means they don't have a bad loss.
I agree.
Whereas with Baylor, I would say they've got 2.
I can get behind that.
I know I said originally like oh because they're injured, but like you know what I mean. Like they're not
Yeah.
they're because of injuries they're not playing as strong as they should, and they've got 2 bad losses,
Mhm.
which in any other world would cause them a seeding.
Yeah.
Like I just
This
don't
is
like I don't
it's
understand this love for Baylor. I should take that back. I get it, but like I don't think that they should be as loved as they are.
it doesn't feel as earned this year as it does. Like it feels like they're kind of basing last this year's team off of last year's success.
Oh yeah, they're thinking, oh, this could be one of the next dynasties. This could be the next Kansas, so we're going to jump on that bandwagon early.
Mhm.
And I don't like that. I want to see like what should be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it.
In ten, so Tennessee should be a 1, Baylor a 2, Villanova a 3, and Texas A&M should be in the tournament.
Agreed.
That's I mean like and what really agitated me about the tennis or Texas A&M thing, they weren't even one of the top 3 replacement teams. They were the 4th replacement team.
Who was above them on replacement team?
Dayton, not Xavier. Oh no, I can't remember the other two. But like Dayton was the number 1, I think, the number 1 replacement team.
Uh, I I don't like it, but yeah. Sure.
Well, I'm looking at it. So it was Dayton, Oklahoma, SMU, then Texas A&M.
Yeah, I'd pick Texas A&M over all three of them.
That's what I'm saying. Like Oklahoma, I don't understand because like they've had a pretty rocky season all around.
Hmm.
Good for Porter Mosier's first season,
Yeah.
but like not better than A&M. And then Dayton and SMU were two teams that kind of got snubbed because they were in one of those non-Power 5 conferences and they didn't win their conference.
Hmm.
But sorry, go ahead.
I know. Go. I was listening.
But I don't think A&M I don't think SMU or Dayton's better than A&M on any given day.
I agree with you. You're not gonna find an argument there. This is yeah. They definitely should have been in it. And why they're not, I'm still can't tell you
Baffles my mind. Baffles.
completely.
Well, I was watching it with my brother, and I when we were watching it, and they were going through the South, and they only had the East left. I was like, A&M's not getting in there. Like I said it like 15 minutes before they actually read it. Just because like I know like the way that it was falling, it's just like I know the committee's not going to respect them,
Yeah, it's just
especially when Virginia Tech falls to an 11.
yeah. I can't. That's the worst part is that these teams are better than some of the lower tiers, but because they're like won their conference, they get in.
Ridiculous.
Like I just can't get behind. I can't. I will never be able to get over stuff like that.
Me neither. But with that being said, that, ladies and gentlemen, is our show. We're going to stop babbling our two tired selves. We're going to finally go to bed, probably eat some food first.
Probably. Gotta be fat real quick.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for listening. Like, share, comment wherever you're listening. If this is on YouTube, if it's on Spotify, share the link. Do what you got to do to make sure people see this. There will probably be social medias up very soon with this plastered on it. At first, for the first probably month and a half, there will only be sports. So I apologize if that's not your thing. I mean, if you're this far and you're not into sports, I applaud you. I don't know why you're here. Um, but we're gonna have more shows coming up. Those to be announced. Very excited about getting this thing started. And
Super, super ready for some of the shows that we have coming.
dude, I know, isn't it gonna be great?
It is.
Yeah, no, I'm hyped. Once again, thank you. This has been Second Chance Points. I'm Ryan.
I'm Jarrett. Thank y'all.
See you guys.